Shabbat shalom. Mark.
Hello.
Hey, sister. How are you, Sandra?
Hi. How are you? Oh, you made it back home?
Yes, we're back.
Oh, I bet you sad you're missing your trip, huh? Hi, Sister Phyllis.
Hi, I'm sad she's back home, Sister Sandra, because I won't get any more lake views.
Oh, I know. I won't give you any more swamp views, but I'll have to give you
swamp views.
Yeah.
You know, it didn't look like a swamp. It looked like a lake.
Not what you would typically think of as a swamp, but anyway, we saw the monkeys. Yay!
What's a monkey?
Well,
the ones that are in trees,
like an orangutan.
Wow.
Something about a hurricane happened, and some monkeys escaped from the zoo years ago in Palatka, and they tried to remove the monkeys, but that didn't work, and they multiplied too fast. But we've heard people talk about rare occurrences of seeing them. And so it just so happened we went out one morning and it was like 7:30 and I heard this snap up in a tree and I looked way up and I said, Joe, there's something up there. It looks like a man. And I know that's not a bird. So we take the boat and go across and there's the monkeys. so excited. We got to see them. So
were they friendly?
Well, they ran. They were scared.
Oh, you didn't get a chance to tell them that Yahusha loves them, huh?
No, I shout that to all the animals.
She told all the other animals.
Oh my goodness.
That orange looks good on you, Sandra.
Yes, you look good in orange.
Oh, very complimentary. Thank you. Hi, Yahuchan.
You feel?
Hey, Brother Jazz.
Love and peace to you all.
It's
How
really
you doing this morning, Brother Phil?
Hey, good morning.
Nice to see your all faces.
Yeah, we got pictures of you, man.
Yeah. It was nice seeing you guys. It was really refreshing.
Oh, we enjoyed it.
Beautiful family.
Getting my garden together. I got some cherry tomatoes in there, some big tomatoes, some green peppers, some strawberries.
Oh man.
And this sun out here today is pretty good.
I love tomatoes.
So your snow is officially gone. I don't know how late it snows up there. It's cold here today.
Yeah, it's in the 50s this morning.
Cold here today too.
Yeah.
It's crazy weather.
You know, they always say, my mother always taught me, and I still hear it, not that you don't want to plant anything outside until after Derby Day. And, you know, it's true because right now it would be languishing. I've seen snow on Derby Day.
Yep. I've seen snow in April.
Well, on top of ground, it's cold, but below the ground, it's warm. So all you have to do is just cover anything that's coming up with some type of mesh or tarp, and it'll survive the cold. But the roots are being warm.
Okay.
I bet Chance knows how to do it.
He's got it going. He had fruits and vegetables last year. I hear Casper.
Yeah.
It's got to get
Yeah, she's clocking.
The thing with the state of Minnesota is you got to get your growth into the ground quickly because the weather here is it's not fit for year-round yield. You're gonna get a little window of yield and that's it.
Wow.
But I enjoy sowing seed and planting, and I even talk to the little baby flowers, man. I'm out there talking to them. The neighbors probably think I'm just loony, boy. I tell you what, I'm out there hands spread forth to the Shamayim, talking to Yahuwah, dancing around, blowing my horn, planting. They probably think, babe.
You know, I blew my horn this morning. I always blow the shofar on Shabbat, and I get out and blow it. There was 2 men out on a boat fishing just right here, and Joe happened to be standing there, and I went out and blew my horn on the back screened porch, and Joe said, well, they didn't even look up. They're just fishing. And I said, oh, they might be 2 of those who they don't hear and they don't see. I don't know how you could hear a horn go off 3 times that loud and that long and not look up to see what it was.
Yeah, I figured they'd be curious about what in the world was
I
that?
know, but they just kept on fishing, didn't even look up.
A moose in
That's sad.
Tennessee?
But, that makes me wonder if, like in the last days, when the Trump goes off, whatever that is, that will there be those there that they won't hear because, they weren't chosen to hear. So they'll just go on just as before, their life before, when the Trump is sounded, and they have this opportunity window, but yet they don't hear because we know that some eyes are closed and some ears are shut, and they're not going to hear that. But anyway, that was just what I thought of when I did that this morning. I thought that was sad, but anyway, the squirrels heard it. They
That
love
goes with what Yahusha said. It'll be like in the days of Noah and Lot, and they were not paying attention until the ark door was closed.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that?
The very last day.
They was buying and selling, giving in marriage and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's they just are complacent.
Yeah.
So I gotta sing a song because that's what we're here for. Is to praise Him. That was a great lesson we had. I think. This is 1 Samuel chapter 2. This is a prayer that she prayed in thankfulness unto Yahuwah because He gave her Shemiah. My heart rejoices in Yahuwah. My heart has been high in Yahuwah. My mouth is open wide over my enemies, for I have rejoiced in your deliverance. There's no one set apart like you. There's no one beside you, and there is no rock like a Elohim. Do not multiply words so proudly. Let no arrogance come from your mouth. For your is all of knowledge, and by Him leads away. Bows of the mighty are broken, and those who stumble shall be girded with strength. The satisfied have hired themselves out their bread, and the hungry has ceased. Even the barren has borne 7, and she who has many children pines away. I get that because it's the way the circuses are today, and the false teachers, they're choosing death. But those of us that are in our birth pains, we're gonna bear much fruit even in our old age. Yahuwah puts to death and makes alive. He brings down to the grave and raises up. Yahuwah makes poor and makes rich. He brings low and lifts up. He raises the poor from the dust. He lifts the needy from the esteemed. For the supports of the earth belong to you, and he has set the world upon them. He guards the feet of his kind one, but the room was silent in darkness. For man does not become mighty by power. Those who oppose Yahuwah are shadowed. From the Shaman he thunders against them. Yahuwah judges the ends of the earth and gives strength to his sovereign and exalts the horn of his anointed. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Let everything that has breath praise Yahuwah. Oh, give thanks to Yahuwah, for his kindness is everlasting. Hallelujah. Thank you for listening.
Hallelujah. Thank you, sister.
All esteem to Yahusha. We got to rejoice because we in a mean old battle. Hallelujah. And Yahuwah, he's got our rearward. He's going to take care of everything. All we have to do is rejoice. Trust, believe, and wait.
A brother on here sent me a message the other day and said, let Yahuwah move the mountain. And that really affected me.
I mean, it shows strong trust.
I'm working on it.
So was Miss Juliana glad to have you back home?
She's glad to have me back, but we don't have her here yet. So yeah, she her boyfriend has got this coming week off. So he's going to care for her. And she said she hasn't seen him in since before we left. It's been a while. So she said she hadn't seen him in a while. And so he said he would do her care and take care of her. And then she'll be back here. She's thinking around midweek. So, but she'll be back. She's excited about us being back. And one of her sisters went over to wash her hair yesterday because she still can't use her arm real good, but she's improving every day. And it is just amazing. It is just amazing how that girl, she's just, she just go. She's like,
all esteem to Yahuwah, showing us his esteem. Hallelujah.
Yes.
That's the esteem of you. So how's your mom doing?
My mom, she needs prayer. She's not doing real great right now. But she went back to the doctor Wednesday. So just pray for her. She's just having some issues there, and we're just gonna hang in there. We know Yahuwah knows best for everything and everyone, so we're gonna hang in there. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
All esteem to Yahusha. We pray one for another.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Shabbat shalom, brother.
All right, man. We're heading into a new study into Joshua, Yahusha. Joshua, Yahusha. Yah is our deliverer. This is a great book. I don't know why we're not packed here today. We have 4 openings. If there's anybody else out there who has the strength and the courage to come on in. We really would love to have you.
And Roz may be joining us later. She said Yahuwah is working on her with something from the Word this morning, so she may join us later.
Okay, well, here's what it is. I told Yahuwah a long time ago, if only one person shows up, I'm going to do this. Whether it be 10 or 1, we're going to move forward. It might just be me and Phyllis. Who knows? It's happened before. It's just been me and Phyllis before. So, all right. Well, we're going to get into Joshua. Anybody know the timeline here? First of all, we finished the Torah last week. Okay. Are the children of Israel in the promised land yet? No, they're not. Okay, so what's the timeline here? Anybody know? What's the year? Anybody know? Nobody knows? Okay, so the year is roughly 1450 BC. 1450 BC as they get ready to enter the promised land. All righty. Very important time here, period, in the history of the Israelites. Very exciting book here, and I can't wait to get into it. So who would like to start us off and read chapter 1? Phil, go ahead.
Joshua chapter 1, verse 1. And it came to be after the death of Musha, the servant of Yahuwah, that Yahuwah spoke to Yahusha, the son of Nun, the assistant of Musha, saying, Musha, my servant, is dead. So now arise, pass over this Jordan, you and all this people, to the land which I am giving to them, to the children of Israel.
Okay, hang on.
Okay.
Okay, so Yahuwah spoke to Yahusha, son of Nun. Okay, so son of Nun. Is Nun a man or is Nun a woman?
Man.
Nun is a man, and he is mentioned in 1 Chronicles 7:27. So go there, 1 Chronicles 7:27. Nun his son, Yahusha his son. So we see a genealogy being laid out here in chapter 7 of 1 Chronicles. And Elishama his son, Nun his son, and Yahusha his son. So Nun is a man, the son of Elishama. Okay. I don't know why they teach that Nun is a female, but they do pretty heavily, really, in Christianity. Kind of strange.
Maybe to back up the nuns thing.
That's probably it. You're probably right.
So
Funny. What's that?
I was gonna add noon is the number 50 in the
Noon.
alphabet, and it means seed, activity, and life.
Noon or none?
Well, it's pronounced noon, but it's spelled the same, N-U-N.
Okay. I've always pronounced it none. So you can't not prove that by me.
Okay.
Maybe
I'm
by
listening.
anybody else. Got any idea of that?
Mem, noon.
How that's supposed to be pronounced? Son of noon? I've never heard that before.
Oh, I'm not saying that that's how it's supposed to be announced. I'm just saying that it's spelled the same as that Hebrew alphabet. That's all.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yes, sir.
I got you. Okay. Okay. So Moses, my servant, is dead, confirming the death of Moses, and Deuteronomy 34:7 from last week. And he's now getting the command from Yahuwah to pass over the river. What does Yarden mean here? Pass over the Yarden. Why does that say Yarden? Or some people would take that as garden. Well, why is that there? Why doesn't that say the Jordan River? Anybody know? Obviously, it's a Hebrew word or term being used here. And so why would they call it a garden or a yarden and rather than the Jordan River? Phyllis.
I'm confused because I thought that was the name for Jordan, Yarden.
Oh. Yeah, I kind of thought that too, but then I kind of backed out of that. Anybody else?
Is it possibly the difference in translation?
It may be some confusion there between Paleo Hebrew and Aramaic, or what they call modern Hebrew. There's a possibility of it. And don't forget, there's scriptural Hebrew as well. What language did Yahusha speak in his time? Did they speak Paleo Hebrew? Did Yahusha? Or did he speak Aramaic? Or what did he speak? He spoke what they call scriptural Hebrew in the first century. So that would be what Yahusha spoke. Scriptural Hebrew. Okay, so in Hebrew, Paleo Hebrew, okay, Yarden means the descender. It doesn't mean Jordan. It means the descender or to flow down. So why is that being used here? So Yarad in Hebrew would signify descending or going down. So it would refer to a steep descent, a deep descent down to the Jordan River from the mountains, especially from the Sea of Galilee, where there's definitely long descents, and down to the Dead Sea as well. So descender or flow down. So that's Paleo Hebrew. So what is the geographical significance of this? in the Hebrew language. Now, all of a sudden, we're talking about something different, aren't we? We're talking about scriptural language, scriptural Hebrew. So, what's the geographical significance of Yarden in the scriptural Hebrew? Go ahead, Chandra.
Does it have anything to do with crossing over?
No, that's Hebrew. The word Hebrew.
Hebrew. Okay.
Yeah.
Yarden.
So this word is used most often when traveling down from a higher level or elevation to the Jordan River in the Hebrew language. Okay. And so significantly, or geographical significance of this is that it's a Hebrew name for the Jordan River. So it doesn't really mean Jordan River, but it is a Hebrew name for the Jordan River, which flows through a deep crevice or a deep valley, doesn't it? With high inclines on both sides. Okay. So what else would be an indication of why the Hebrew used this Yarden? Although it's like I say, it's significant and be used for the Jordan River, but why? So imagine the Jordan River. It's in this deep valley. Okay, what's alongside of it? It's like an oasis, isn't it? So there's trees and plants and all kinds of vegetation richly growing on both banks of the Jordan River, making it look like a garden, if you will. And so this is why they say Yarden. They're speaking of the Jordan River. That's what they're referring it to. Okay, so that's why you're going to see that throughout the scriptures here when it says pass over this Yarden. Is why, rather than the Jordan River. It does say the Jordan River, though, and you'll see that as we keep reading through here. So it'll leave no doubt that that's what they're referring to as we continue to read. Is there any thoughts, comments, or questions on that? And a lot of people get stumbled on that and say, why does that say Yarden? What's that mean? Thoughts, comments, questions? Okay, Phil, let's continue on.
Verse 3, every place on which the sole of your foot treads, I have given you, as I spoke to Musha, from the wilderness and this Lebanon, even as far as the great river, the river Euphrates, all the land of the Kittites, and to the great sea toward going down of the sun, is your border. No man is going to stand before you all the Yaman of your life. As I was with Musha, so I am with you. I do not fail you nor forsake you. Be strong and courageous, for you are to let this people inherit the land which I swore to their fathers to give them. Only be strong and very courageous to guard to do according to all the Torah which Musha, my servant, commanded you. Do not turn from it right or left, so that you may act wisely wherever you go. Do not let the book of the Torah depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate on it yom and laila, so you guard to do according to all that is written in it. For then you shall make your way prosperous and act wisely. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid, nor be discouraged, for your Elohim is with you wherever you go. Excuse me. And Yahusha commanded the officers of the people, saying, pass through the midst of the camp and command the people, saying, prepare food for yourselves, for within 3 yamen you are passing over to this Jordan, to go to possess the land which Yahuwah your Elohim is giving you to possess. And Yahusha spoke to the Reubenites and to the Gadites and half the tribe of Manasseh, saying, remember the word which Moshe, servant of Yahuwah, commanded you, saying, Yahusha your Elohim is giving you rest and shall give you this land. Let your wives and your little ones and your livestock stay on the land which Moshe gave you beyond the Jordan. But you shall possess before your brothers armed all your brave fighters, and shall help them, until Yahusha has given your brothers rest as to you. So shall they also take possession of the land which Yahuwah your Elohim is giving them. Then you shall return to the land of your possession and shall possess that which Moshe, the servant of Yahuwah, gave you beyond the Jordan toward the rising of the sun. And they answered Yahusha, saying, all that you have commanded us, we do, and whatever you send us, we go. According to all that we obeyed Moshe, so we obey you. Only let Yahuwah your Elohim be with you, as he was with Moshe. Whomever rebels against your command and does not obey your words in all that you commanded them is put to death. Only be strong and courageous.
All right, thanks, Phil. So, what do you all think the motto or the main theme of the message from Yahuwah to Joshua is? Anybody know? Sandra?
Trust him and lead these people over the Jordan. I am with you. Do not be afraid. I got your back.
There is a charge or a command Yahuwah gives Joshua 4 times in this chapter. What would be the main theme of Joshua's leadership then, or his motto? It's very well known. Chance?
You like be strong and courageous.
That's right. Be strong and courageous. Be strong and courageous. Be strong and courageous. Keeps telling him that only be strong and courageous. Why? Why is he telling him that? Sandra?
He doesn't want him to doubt. He wants him to be assured and trust him.
Right. That's right. Okay, so what a task for Joshua, right? Not only is he has to lead in the shadows of Moses, considered the greatest prophet to the Israelites of all time, but he has to take them into Canaan to fulfill the covenant made to Abraham. What a task. So he seems to be in the process here of preparing for conquest. They know they're not just going to walk over that river and that land's going to be given to them. There's no doubt they know they're going to have to fight for it. They've been militarized up to this point by Yahuwah. And so he directs his military officers or leaders to prepare the people to cross over this Jordan within 3 days. Why 3 days? What's significant about that?
Shadow picture of Yahusha.
That's right. They're getting ready to leave the wilderness into the promised land. And so there's a transition there that's going to take place. It's just like from death or sleep to life, or to wake up and become Hebrew. When they cross over, they're going to wake up and start seeing the spiritual aspect of following Yahuwah. To this point, they've only been wandering in the wilderness in their flesh, not understanding anything. Matter of fact, they've been very rebellious, disobedient, strong-willed, unruly children. So a great transition is getting ready to take place here in 3 days. They're going to go from death to life, if you will. Like Yahusha was in the tomb for 3 days and 3 nights, right? So this chapter sets the stage then for the fulfillment of Yahuwah's promise to Abraham, okay? Regarding the covenant and the promised land, if you will. Notice 18. Whoever rebels against your command and does not obey your words, and all that you command him is put to death. Wow. Disobeying Joshua's command carries a penalty of death. Why? What's the significance behind that?
Say that question again, Brother Mark.
Okay, it says, whoever rebels against your command and does not obey your words, and all that you command him is put to death. So disobeying Joshua's commands carries the penalty of death. So what does that project or foreshadowing? Go ahead, Sam.
The death of disobedience to the commands.
What's
It
that?
seems like Yahusha is a foreshadow or type of Yahusha, and whoever don't believe on him who Yahuwah has sent is going to die in the end.
Whoever doesn't obey him is going to die.
That's
Right.
right.
He is. Wasn't it a prophecy that he's gonna ring up a prophet like myself? Isn't that what Musha said? I'm gonna raise up a prophet like myself unto you, and that's who Yahusha is, the fulfillment of that.
Yeah. Look at John 3:36.
36. Oh,
It's he who believes in the Son possesses everlasting life, but he who does not obey the Son shall not see life, but the wrath of Allah, which would be death.
Yeah, that's where that belief only is not enough.
That's right.
Well, and belief means you're doing what you're believing in. You're not just saying it with your mouth, like he says, many honor me with their mouth,
Obey.
but don't honor me with their behavior.
Say belief gets you there, but it says here, if you don't obey, you will not see life. You know, obey what? The commandments. You see, if you do not obey, I've got that written down here.
And go ahead and use a yellow. I was going to use my orange, but
No, I've got more.
I think there's another scripture in Yehukanan. I don't know if it's 5.
It's probably take forever for it.
He that believes in him possesses everlasting life.
not.
Whoever believes in Yahusha possesses everlasting life.
Go to Zechariah.
So,
Zechariah 3, we see really, I think, just an extremely powerful description here of a high priest wearing filthy garments, ragged clothes. Okay. Representing sin, shame, and the iniquity of the Israelites, right? And so here this messenger orders the clothes removed and symbolizing the cleansing of sin, and replacing the filthy rags or the filthy garments with clean, righteous garments and a turban. And so let's read that. It says, and see, I'm on Zechariah 3:3. And see, the messenger who was speaking to me was going out, and another messenger was coming out to meet him. And he said to him, run, speak to this young man, saying, Jerusalem is to remain unwalled. Oh, wait a minute. I'm on the wrong one. I'm sorry. 3:3. And Yahusha was dressed in filthy garments and was standing before the messenger. And he answered and spoke to those who stood before him, saying, remove the filthy garments from him. And to him he said, see, I have removed your guilt from you, and shall put costly robes on you. And I said, let them put a clean turban on his head. Then they put a clean turban on his head, and they put garments on him. And the messenger of Yahuwah stood by. And the messenger of Yahuwah witnessed to Yahusha, saying, thus said Yahuwah Zabaoth, if you walk in my ways, and if you guard my charge, then you shall also rule my house and also my courts, and I shall give you access among these standing here. Now listen, Yahusha, the high priest, you and your companions who sit before you, for they are men of symbol. For look, I am bringing forth my servant, the branch. Wow, look how this mingles Joshua, the high priest, with Yahusha. You see the mingling, the blending together, showing that Yahusha is the type or foreshadow of Yahusha. So was Moses, though, too, wasn't he? So what does that mean? What do you think that means? That Moses and Joshua was the foreshadow of Yahusha. What does that mean? What's that telling us? What's that mean for us? Put it that way. What does it mean for us? It means that we are representatives of Yahuwah. Each and every one of us. We represent Yahuwah in all that we do, in all that we say. Just like these guys did. Is everybody seeing that? Okay.
That goes with that lesson you were teaching last night then about being teachers. Make sure that we are, it's like Yahusha said, we have to abide in him. Yehukanan 15, in order to bring forth fruit, we have to be in him. That means he in us. We have to make sure we're walking in his same character, being obedient to the word, being examples of the word at all times. We lead by example. Sort of like what you were talking, set apartness. Oh, and there's a scripture there that said Yahuwah was in Yahusha, reconciling the world back unto himself. So he's in us doing the same thing.
Yeah, you're hitting on a lot of powerful things here. Let's go back to that Zechariah 3 one time. Look at 1 through 2 here, 1 and 2. And he showed me Yahusha the high priest standing before the messenger of Yahuwah, and Satan standing at his right hand to be an adversary to him. And Yahuwah said to Satan, Yahuwah rebuke you, Satan. Yahuwah, who has chosen Jerusalem, rebuke you. Is this not a brand plucked from the fire? Prophesying Satan's end in the lake of fire, right? Okay, and so and this vision is serving as a prophecy, if you will, or a prediction of the cleansing of his people and the coming branch. Who's the branch?
Yahusha HaMashiach.
Messiah, yes. So here we have the adversary, the accuser of the brethren. We have the Messiah. We have the blending in the branch. Okay, so what is Israel's sins that led to this scene? Phyllis?
Would you repeat that, please?
What is Israel's sins that led to this scene? Phyllis, go ahead.
They were worshiping other mighty ones.
Yeah. Idolatry. Absolutely. Okay. All right. Is there any questions on chapter 1? Thoughts, comments, questions? So we have the transition of leadership. We have the charge of being strong and courage, emphasis on the Torah here, day and night. He's to read it and dwell on it day and night, all the time. He's to prepare the generals for conquest as they cross over. How about, what's this talking about in 12? And Yahusha spoke to the Reubenites and to the Gadites and to half the tribe of Manasseh. Remember the word which Moses, servant of Yahuwah, commanded you. What's that all about? Sandra?
They are the 2.5 tribes that received their inheritance on the side of the Jordan before they crossed over.
On the east side.
Right. So they had already received their inheritance. So he was telling them, they had told Musha that they would go with their brothers, and they just built places for their wives and children until they got back, because they were not going to go and take full possession until their brethren took possession.
Right.
Of their inheritance.
Reminding them of their commitment to help the rest of the tribes conquer the land of Canaan on the west side of the Jordan, although they wanted to settle on the east side of the Jordan. He said, okay, you can settle here, you can have this land, but your military men have to come with our armies and fight and conquer on the west side, all the armies on the west side.
Was that also part of the promised land too?
The whole thing, the whole thing was.
Okay.
So if you look up here into 3, every place on which the sole of your feet treads, I have given you. And they wandered around the wilderness, and they saw that was their land. and spoke to Moses from the wilderness and this Lebanon to the great river, which is the Nile, the river Euphrates, and all the land of the Hittites, and the great sea toward the going down of the sun is your border. Right? So that would be the Mediterranean. So he pretty much gives a very quick outline of this all the way to the border of the Mediterranean, to the Nile River, all the way across to the Euphrates River, down south and up north. So these other tribes, this other people live. So they were everywhere. Everywhere their foot touched became their land, all the way back to Abraham. Okay. So what's the significance then if they were in the promised land and as soon as they crossed over the Sea of Reeds and all through the travel, they were already in the promised land? What's the significance of this transition from the wilderness across the Jordan into the promised land? What's the significance of that? Most people think, oh, that was the promised land, that little slither, but it was not, was it? No, it really was not. It was part of it. It was only 10% of the promised land. Really? That little sliver is only 10%. Go ahead, Phyllis.
Was it kind of like a graduation?
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah, you can say that. Can anybody elaborate a little bit more on that? Phyllis, can you elaborate a little bit more, open it up a little bit? Anybody?
They put in the time, they learned the commandments, they learned to trust, they learned to obey, they learned to follow the commandments, the leader that was commanding them.
Right. They learned all that stuff while in the flesh. So what's the significance of crossing over then? Sandra?
Is it the bridge from impurity to purity?
Yeah, we could say that.
In other words, this is just the tip of the iceberg. I'm going to take you far and wide.
Go ahead, Phyllis.
Is it like dying to self and accepting the eternal reign?
Yeah. Okay. So when they cross over the river, they're being immersed. So they're coming out of the wilderness, or being immersed across the Jordan. What's happening here? Go ahead, Phil.
From temporal to spiritual. It's a spiritual
There you
thing.
go. That's it. Right.
It's like baptism, going across the Jordan River. That's, so.
Right. So they became Hebrew. They became Israelites. They became worshipers of Yah. So they became a spiritual nation rather than a fleshly slavery nation, a nation of slaves, right? And shame. They became a nation of priests and kings to Yahuwah, a spiritual nation. Go ahead, Phil.
Proving once again, Yahuwah had to do all of it because they would have never done it had he not. Yeah, he had to do it. He's first to last. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Just like us, we don't get converted unless Yahusha calls us to this repentance and calls us to, the same thing. Ruach HaKodesh. So.
All right. And we're going to get a lot deeper into that right there on, I think, the third or fourth chapter. So it's, the fourth chapter, I think, or fifth. Whenever we get into the conquest of Jericho, we're going to get really deep into what Phil was just talking about. Anybody else got any thoughts, comments, or questions? Okay. Who wants to read chapter 2? Jen, go ahead.
You know, if I have to skip out of here real fast, just somebody pick up for me and I'll be back. They're cutting huge trees next door. And if we see that tree coming this way, we're going to get out real fast. Okay.
Hopefully not.
I hope it doesn't either, but it's real close to us and it's extremely, extremely tall. And so it's kind of scary. And Yahusha, son of Nun, secretly sent out 2 men from Shittim to spy, saying, "Go see the land and Jericho." And they went and came to the house of an Asha, the Zonah, and her name was Rahab. And they lay down there. But it was reported to the sovereign of Jericho, saying, "See, men from the children of Yasharel have come here tonight. So search out the land." And the sovereign of Jericho sent to Rahab, saying, "Bring out the men who have come to you, who have entered your house, for they have come to search out all the land." But the Asha had taken the 2 men and hid them. So she said, "The men came to me, but I did not know where they were from." Then it came to be, as the gate was being shut, when it was dark, that the men went out. I do not know where the men went. Pursue them quickly so that you overtake them. But she had brought them up to the roof and hidden them with the stalks of flax, which she had laid out on the roof. And the men pursued them by the way to the Jordan, to the fords. And they shut the gate afterwards as soon as the pursuers had gone out. And before they lay down, she came up to them on the roof. And she said to the men, "I know that Yahuwah has given you the land, and that the fear of you has fallen on us, and that all the inhabitants of the land melt away because of you. For we have heard how Yahuwah dried up the water of the sea of reeds for you when you came out of Mitzrayim, and what you did to the 2 sovereigns of the Amorites who were beyond the Jordan, Sihon and Og, whom you put under the ban. And when we heard, our hearts melted, and there was no spirit left in anyone because of you. For Yahuwah your Elohim, he is Elohim in the Shamayim above and on Eretz beneath. And now please swear to me by Yahuwah, since I have shown you kindness, that you also show kindness to my father's house, and shall give me a true token, and shall spare my father and my mother and my brothers and my sisters and all that they have, and shall deliver our lives from death." And the men said to her, "Our lives for yours, if you do not expose this matter of ours. Then it shall be, when Yahuwah has given us the land, that we shall treat you in kindness and truth." So she let them down by a rope through the window, for her house was on the city wall, and she dwelt on the wall. And she said to them, "Go to the mountain, lest the pursuers come upon you, and you shall hide there 3 yomim, until the pursuers have returned, and afterwards go on your way." And the men said to her, "We are released from this oath of yours, which you have made us swear, unless when we come into the land, you bind this line of scarlet cord in the window through which you let us down, and unless you bring your father and your mother and your brothers and all your father's household to your own home. And it shall be that anyone who goes outside the doors of your house into the street, his blood is on his own head, and we are innocent. And anyone who is with you in the house, his blood is on our head if a hand is laid on him. And if you expose this matter of ours, then we shall be released from your oath which you made us swear. And she said, let it be according to your words. And she sent them away, and they went. And she bound the scarlet cord in the window. So they left and came to the mountain and stayed there 3 yomim until the pursuers returned. And the pursuers sought them in all the way, but did not find them. Then the 2 men returned and came down from the mountain and passed over. And they came to Yahusha, son of Nun, and related to him all that had befallen them. And they said to Yahusha, truly Yahuwah has given all the land into our hands, and also all the inhabitants of the land have melted away because of us.
Okay. All right, thanks, June. Okay, so this is obviously about Rahab. And go back over to, let me see, verse 1. It says, and they went and came to the house of Anasha, the Zuna. What does that mean? What's that Hebrew word? June?
She's a prostitute or a harlot.
Right. It means whore or prostitute. More specifically, a temple prostitute. So she may have been working in the temple, collecting tithes for the priests of the pagan priests. And her name was Rahab. Okay, now Rahab is a very interesting figure because of what? Because she helped the spies? What's the most prevalent thing she's known for? Jim?
Well, I don't know, but I'm kind of getting like she's a representation of the idolatry that Israel had committed. So she represents them and the idolatry that they were committing.
Okay, so she is not a what we would call a respectable person, is she? And so she has a lot of sin. She is very conspicuous person. Go ahead, Phyllis.
Doesn't she marry into the line of Yehuda?
Bam, you got it. Okay, so Rahab is in the genealogy of Yahusha. Wow. Okay, so there's 5 women mentioned in the genealogy of Yahusha, and we find that in Matthew. So go to Matthew chapter 1. Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. That's good, Phyllis. Real good. All right, so Matthew 1 gives us genealogy of Yahusha. And if we look up here in 3, we see Tamar. There's one of them. So we have 4 women mentioned before Mary is mentioned. Obviously, Mary is the 5th. So we have Tamar. The next one is Rahab, the prostitute. And Solomon begat Boaz by Rahab. So Rahab was Boaz's mother. And Boaz begot Obed by Ruth. So there's another one. That's the third one. And Obed begot Jesse, and Jesse begot David the sovereign, and David the sovereign begot Solomon by Uriah's Asha. So this is the fourth one. They don't name her specifically, but who is that? Who is Uriah's Asha?
Bathsheba.
Bathsheba.
So, Brother Mark,
Yeah.
I looked up Zonah,
Yeah.
and it said that oral tradition teaches it refers to a woman not born a Yehudi. So that would mean like she was a foreigner or a stranger. Yehudi women who was intimate with a man whom she was prohibited to marry, thereby violating a universal prohibition. A woman intimate with a chalal. A chalal is sort of like a priest, the invalid offspring of priestly stock. A woman who has had intercourse with one of the forbidden sexual relationships. Hebrew word for innkeeper, which comes from the word mazan, which means food. Zana, Hebrew Strong's 2181, is the root word etymology and primitive root, highly fed and therefore wanton. In
Can't
addition,
be a cult. I mean, it depends on context. And probably the
Yeah.
spelling. Zuna usually is Z-U-N-A-H. Here we're seeing Z-O-N-A-H. So this could be a cult, a religious cult type thing, all right? But it really is a shrine prostitute through pagan culture is what it really is. It's not anything to do with a Hebrew. She was not a Hebrew. Okay, she was a Gentile. That's what's amazing that we find her in Yahusha's genealogy here. Genealogy, I mean, even Ruth was a Moabite woman. She was an Israelite, but they were the enemy of Israel. And then, so Uriah's Asha, Bathsheba, and then, of course, the fifth one is Miriam, down in 16, or Mary. And Jacob begat Joseph, the husband of Mary. Okay, who of whom was born, who is called Mashiach. Okay, so those are the five women listed in the genealogy of Yahusha. And so not all of them, were righteous women. Matter of fact, they were the opposite, weren't they? Thoughts, comments, or questions? Chance, go ahead.
I find it interesting that Rahab is also mentioned in the book of Yaqub too, where in the same way was not Rahab the whore also declared by works when she received the messengers and sent them out another way. So for her belief, she was known great for her belief also. She had great belief.
Okay, so Rahab the harlot, or prostitute, if you will, listed in the genealogy of Yahusha, is identified as the wife of Solomon and the mother of Boaz. This makes her the great-great-grandmother of King Daud, or King David, and therefore a direct ancestor of Yahusha. Okay. She's one of the only five women mentioned in Matthew's genealogy. The others being Tamar, Ruth, Bathsheba, and Mary. Rahab was a Gentile. Okay, she was a Canaanite prostitute from the city of Jericho. she protected the Israelite spies. She lied to protect them, lied to her king. Later, after she was spared, she later married Solomon, and he was from the tribe of Judah, Yehuda. So this inclusion of this harlot, this Gentile harlot, this Canaanite prostitute, in the genealogy of Yahusha highlights without question that Yahusha's lineage includes Gentiles and people with sinful pasts, sinful people. So what does this demonstrate for us then? What's the significance of this? Phil.
That all sinners called by Yahuwah through Yahusha can be saved.
Right. They don't have to be a righteous person. They don't have to be someone who's, follows the Torah to the letter. These people related to him, and they were sinners, man, filthy sinners.
Example of our hope and our trust in Yahuwah and Yahusha, that if he calls us to be redeemed, and nothing can separate us from him, from his calling, because he creates both good and evil, so he can do what he wants as far as pardoning each and every one of us whom he calls. And it's all training ground, which he allows things to happen to see how we respond, see how we repent, see how we change, see how we struggle, because all of that struggle is obviously lifting him up as our Savior. So there's going to be struggles for each and every one of us. We're going to step back, but in the end, he can redeem whom he's going to redeem, and there's nothing we can do to actually physically. I mean, we don't want to sin, obviously, but we struggle against it, and the struggle itself is part of the self-improvement and part of the whole thing. I mean, if you're struggling, then that means you wanting to overcome, and he gives us the strength and power to do that. So I often think he sits up there and goes, well, Phil thinks he's had such a good week. Let's throw this curveball at him and see what he does. And early on, yes, the curveballs always struck me out, but now things have changed. I'm growing, and it's his timeline anyway, so we don't have anything to fear. I mean, we don't have anything to fear at all, because he's going to redeem us through this struggle. So that's awesome. That's from him, by the way, not me.
Yeah. Okay, so Rahab, Rahab was a whore, a great sinner. Okay, very fearful of the stories that she has heard about the Israelites and their Alua. And like everyone else in there, in that city, had heard of them and were fearful of them and of their Elohim. Okay. And so later, after she marries a Yehudai man, obviously his Elohim became her Elohim. Okay. And so at this point, her belief is told in Hebrews 11. So look at in Hebrews 11:31. By belief, Rahab the whore did not perish with those who did not believe, meaning the other Gentiles in Jericho, the pagans, having received the spies with peace. You see that? So afterwards, she believed because she married a Yehuda man and gave birth to Boaz. So what happened to her now? What can we say? What can we say? She's just like every one of us. What can we say about her? What can we say about ourselves? Let's put it that way. Phyllis.
All have sinned and fallen short of the honor of Yahuwah. I forgot the word.
Yeah. I mean, she became an Israelite. She engrafted, didn't she? And that's what we do too. If it wasn't for her, Mary would have never been born. For sure. Let me say, I'm sure Yahuwah could have picked another maiden to borrow DNA from, but it still would have to have been in the line of King David. So, James 2:25 states that in the same way was not, let's back up to 24. It's talking about belief here and stuff. You see then that a man is declared right by works and not by belief alone. That debunks Christianity's doctrine right there. I mean, no wonder they hate this book, James. As soon as you mention James, you can see them start shaking. They're scared death of this book because it debunks their lies. In the same way was not Rahab, the whore, also declared right by works when she received the messengers and sent them out another way. For as the body without the ruach is dead, so also the belief is dead without the works. So how is she declared by works? She lied to the king. She received the messengers, the spies, and sent them out another way. So how does that make her right? How is she declared right by those works? How? How does those works declare her right? Sandra?
She believed from what she heard, and that's how come she received them. It's like when the midwives told Pharaoh that the Yehuda women were lively, they couldn't get to the child before they were born. In other words, she believed in her belief made her fear Yahuwah, and she received what they said. And that's what made her hide them. And she became engrafted.
Yeah, she believed the stories that she heard about the Israelites and about the greatness, how powerful their Elohim was. And, this is spread throughout. I mean, remember, they wandered 40 years, exactly 40, from the time they left Egypt, exactly 40 years to the time they crossed over the Jordan. It was exactly 40 years. That's a long time. So, news spread, stories spread, rumors spread, reputation spread. And so everyone knew about the Israelites and the miracles, the signs of their Elohim, that he traveled with them and protected them and fought for them. And they heard all these stories. And so there was great fear in the land of the Israelites and their Elohim that lived with them. Okay. And so, yes, she believed those stories, but so did everybody else. It wasn't just her. That entire city was trembling because of the presence of the Israelites right across the river. Jericho was just across the border, man, right across the river on the west bank. So
she
how
went
would,
above and beyond, is what I'd say. When she hit them on her roof, and then she let them down by the rope and gave them a plan of escape from those that were hunting after them. She became an adversary. She became their, in other words, she feared Yahuwah more than those people that were around her, that where she was. So that's how it's sort of like that. Remember when you say that let love, she waved her relatives, all or none. She did that too. And she became a part of his house.
okay, there you go. So she chose Yahuwah and Yahuwah's people over her own people.
Okay.
And so she took their side. As a matter of fact, she was the only one that wasn't killed, her and her family. And then they engrafted into the Israelites and became Israelites. And she even married a Yehudi man. Okay. All right. So, wow. Let's go back over here now to Joshua 2. And let me see now. Is there any other thoughts, comments, or questions on chapter 2, Rahab? Phyllis?
Would you say that she became a covering for them?
Her a covering for the spies? Well, that's a hard question. In one way, I think yes. In another way, I think no. Anybody else have any thoughts on that? I guess it depends on what we mean by covering. A covering as concealing?
Well, I was thinking vaguely like a covering of our sin, only she wasn't covering their sin, she was covering their presence. It was a big leap. I'm sorry, my brain's not really functioning.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess in that context, I would say no. But that you bring up an interesting point, because if we look here at 18, unless when we come to the land, they're saying we are released from this oath of yours, which you have made us swear, to protect their life, right? Unless we come into the land, you bind this scarlet cord in the window through which you let us down, unless you bring your father and all your household into the house. If they leave the house and go outdoors and get killed, that blood's on their head, not us. We're innocent. We haven't violated our oath. So what is this? What is this telling? What's the foreshadow of this, fellas?
Passover.
Yeah, Passover. Passover, man. Isn't that amazing? And then you see 22. So they left and came to the mountain and stayed there 3 days until the pursuers returned. And the pursuers sought them in all the way, but did not find them. So what is this? They came down from the mountain and passed over. Look at that. They passed over. So now they're going in and out of the door, aren't they? They're going from the fleshly world into the spiritual realm, and then back and leaving the spiritual realm, coming back in, going in and out of green pastures, aren't they? And so they came to Joshua. They related all that had befallen them, and Joshua said, "Truly, you has given all the land into our hands, and also the inhabitants of the land have melted away because of us." Melted away meaning they've lost their courage. They're fearful of them. They have no will to fight, basically. And so what is this foreshadow of? 3 days. He stayed in a mountain until the pursuers returned. And follow suit. A type of Passover. Okay, here. And so what would the 3 days until the pursuers return? But what would that be? No, Phyllis?
How many days it was before Pharaoh started following them? Or am I off?
No.
Then it must be the 3 days Yahusha was in the tomb.
Yeah. So the resurrection. This is foreshadowing the resurrection, isn't it? Okay. So very good. You brought up some really good points there, Phyllis. That's really amazing stuff here. Notice that the spies gave a good report. They didn't come back with a scary report like they did the first time. I think they learned their lesson. I'd say they did as far as that goes. They definitely learned their lesson. Okay. Any other thoughts, comments, or questions? If not, who wants to read 3? Go ahead, Joe.
And Yahusha rose early in the morning, and they set out from Shem and came to Yarden, he and all the children of Israel, and stayed there before they passed over. And it came to be, after 3 yeomen, that the officers went into the midst of the camp, and they commanded the people, saying, when you see the ark of the covenant of Yahuwah your Elohim, and the priest and the Lumen bearing it, then you shall set out from your place and follow it. Only keep a distance between you and it, about 2,000 cubits by measure.
Okay, stop. Okay, so now what is this? What is this type of? And it came to be after 3 days. Again, 3 days here. That the officers went into the middle of the camp and they commanded the people, when you see the ark of the covenant of Yahuwah your Elohim, and the priests, the Levites bearing it, then you shall set out from your place and follow it. So what's going on with this 3 days, 3 days, 3 days here? Think of the creation timeline. Go ahead, Phyllis.
This might be part of it too. When Yahuwah was going to give them the commandments, he told the people to draw near to the mountain, to clean themselves and cleanse themselves, and wait for 3 days.
Yeah, we see it there too. That's right. So, I mean, it is a preparation and set apartness, right? And purification process. Yes. But what more significantly, more spiritually, is this talking about? So here the Israelites, is talking about their crossing over the Jordan River into Canaanite, obviously, led by the priest, and they're carrying the Ark of the Covenant. But they're told to wait 3 days to purify themselves or consecrate themselves. And then they're to follow the covenant across. So this 3-day thing, referencing the creation timeline, tells us what? Sandra?
Not completely sure, but I'm thinking about seeing rain for the first 3,000 millenniums until the 4,000 millennium, when Yahusha came forth and opened it back up and gave us life.
That's right.
That's what I'm relating to this. 3
Exactly.
days.
That's it. That's it. Okay. So that's why we're seeing this so often. Everything points to Yahusha, doesn't it?
Would you repeat that again, sister? I'm sorry.
So sin and death reigned for the first 3,000 millennium until the 4,000 millennium when he brought forth Yahusha and Yehukanan, the greater light and the lesser light, returned life back unto mankind. Adam had set it up for death by his fall.
That's right. And how long was Lazarus in the tomb?
Lazarus, 4 days. He was in there 4 days.
3 days, but he came out on the fourth day.
Came out on the 4th day.
Resurrected on the fourth day, right? Or
Right.
woke up, we should say. Okay. This is also a foreshadow, obviously, of Yahusha, wasn't it?
So is it also a foreshadow of the second coming too? Because in Husha he said, he told the man when he gave him the man, he said, in 3 days when I come back, in 2 days, I'll whatsoever's right, I'll pay. It's kind of like connecting that too.
No, I mean, he comes back at the end of the 6th day for the 7th millennium.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be more of the, I would say, the 7th day.
So it's from 4,000 to 7,000. That's 3 days.
Yeah.
3 millennium.
Which is in Hosea 6 prophecy.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. Kind of
Right.
relate to that.
Remember
Is
those?
that a double jeopardy?
Huh?
Is that a double jeopardy?
What do you mean, double jeopardy? What's that
It's
mean?
the 3 days and that you 3 days and the 4th day Yahusha brought forth life from the death that the son of Adam has set, and then another 3 days from the complete resurrection.
Oh,
They work in both the same a little bit there.
I don't know. Yeah, I wouldn't call it that, but I would say that Yahuwah's math is perfect. I mean, his math is amazing, really.
Because he's perfect. So
I find no flaw in it anywhere in scriptures. I have not. If anybody has, speak up because I haven't. Okay. So it says they keep a distance between you and the covenant about 2,000 cubits by measure. So how far is that? 2,000 cubits. What distance is that we can understand in our measurement? Anybody? Okay, so 2,000 cubits would be roughly half a mile. Roughly half a mile. So there would be a distance between the ark and the children of Israel of about half of a mile. Okay. Anybody got any thoughts, comments, or questions up to this point?
Why were they kept a half a mile?
I don't know. That's just Yahuwah's instructions.
so they could see them leading. I think it says it in the next verse. He said, only keep a distance.
Yeah, so they
Do not come near it so that you know which way to go.
right.
For you have not passed over this way before.
Right. Yeah, we'll get into that here in a minute. Well, it says it in the following verse, but is there any other thoughts, comments, or questions? All right, Joe, let's continue on.
3:4. Do not come near it, so that you know which way to go, for you have not passed over this way before. And Yahusha said to the people, set yourselves apart, for tomorrow Yahuwah is doing wonders in your midst. And Yahusha spoke to the priests, saying, Take up the ark of the covenant and pass over before the people. So they took up the ark of the covenant and went before the people. And Yahuwah said to Yahusha, This Yom I begin to make you great before the eyes of all Israel, so that they know that I am with you as I was with Musha. And you command the priest who bear the ark of the covenant, saying, When you come to the edge of the water of the Jordan, stand in the Jordan. And Yahusha said to the children of Israel, Come near and hear the words of Yahuwah your Elohim. And Yahusha said, By this you shall know that the living all is in your midst, and that he is certainly driving out from before you the Canaanites, the Kittites, the Cushis, the Perizzites, and the Girgashites, and the Amorites, and the Jebusites. See, the ark of the covenant of the master of all the Eretz is passing over before you into the Jordan. And now take for yourselves 12 men from the tribes of Israel, one man from every tribe. And it shall be, as soon as the soles of the feet of the priests who bear the ark of Yahuwah, the master of all the Eretz, come to rest in the mayim of the Jordan, that the mayim of the Jordan are cut off, the mayim that come down from the upstream, and stand as a heap. And it came to be, when the people set out from their tents to pass over the Jordan, with the priests bearing the ark of the covenant before the people, and as those bearing the ark came to the Jordan, and the feet of the priest bearing the ark dipped into the edge of the water, now the Jordan overflows all its banks during all the time of harvest, that the mayim, which came down from upstream, stood still, and rose in a heap very far away at Adam, the city that is beside Sarthathon. And the mayim going down into the sea of Arabah, the salt sea, were completely cut off, and the people passed over opposite Jericho. And the priest bearing the ark of the covenant of Yahuwah stood firm on dry ground in the midst of the Jordan. And all Israel passed over on dry ground until all the nation had completely passed over the Jordan.
All right, thanks, Joe. Okay, so during this particular time, it's springtime, right? And so during this particular time, the Jordan River overflows its banks, and it rushes. Okay, so a lot of people, including myself, at least I used to, think that the Jordan River was like a stream, something was easily passed over, walked across, but it was not. The flanks were overflowing. It was deep. It was treacherous, and it was not something that was easy to do. Okay, and so during this springtime, during all the time of harvest, this water came down from upstream, and it stood still, and it rose in a heap very far away at Adam, which was a city. Okay. And that is beside Zarenthon, and then the Mayim going down from the Sea of Arabah, the Salt Sea, were completely cut off, so it stopped flowing. So it was held up as it was coming down, and then it stopped flowing, and so it went to dry land. What is this a foreshadow of? Notice that the pillar, the water's piling up far upstream, close to the city of Adam. What would this be a foreshadow of? Anybody? Obviously, this was a spiritual immersion. This was when they became mature Hebrew. It means over or cross over from this world into the spiritual realm where truth and love resides. But what is it a foreshadow of? Nobody knows? Okay. So it would be a foreshadow since the river stopped flowing. As soon as the priest's feet touched the water, this would be a similar or foreshadow type of the Red Sea crossing. When the Israelites crossed over the riverbed on dry land, when they were escaping Egypt, leaving the world, leaving slavery, and enter into the wilderness, into the promised land. So this foreshadows the crossing of the Sea of Reeds or the Red Sea crossing. And so why? Why did Yahuwah do that? Why was there a need for the exaltation of Joshua? Sandra?
Was it to place to give fear of him, to teach everyone fear of him, and that he did that because he wanted to esteem Joshua, because Joshua had esteemed him. So he was showing him so that his fear, for him to be feared and reverenced. So this is a city of Adam, besides Zerah. And I think this was because all of them had died in the wilderness that had crossed over the Red Sea and been immersed. And these had not yet been immersed.
Were they in the covenant?
They weren't in the covenant?
Not yet. Go ahead, Phyllis.
My thoughts were alongside Sister Sandra's. They wanted he wanted the people to see Yahusha in the same light as they saw Musha.
Exactly. Okay. So the exaltation of Joshua by Yahusha was to confirm that Joshua was indeed their leader, just as Moses was.
Okay, that makes sense. That's in verse 6, I think. Verse 7. Yahuwah said to Yahusha, "This yom I begin to make you great before the eyes of all Israel, so that they know that I am with you as I was with Musha."
There you go.
Okay, thank you.
So this chapter is highlighting obedience and maintaining belief in the face of impossible obstacles. And showing that spiritual preparation is required in order to receive Yahuwah's blessings. So this was not an easy thing, man. This was huge. This was a miracle, because they couldn't have done this without Yahuwah's intervention. No way. Not during this time of year. they would have probably all perished. Okay, so let me share screen here real quick for you. So we see here, here's the Jordan River. Okay. Here's the Sea of Galilee up here. He comes down. It comes from a bunch of different springs up north here and comes down through here and creates the Galilee Sea, which is fresh water, by the way. And then down through the Jordan, through this valley, you can see the mountains on both sides. And then it flows on down here into the Dead Sea. Okay, the Dead Sea has no outlet, causing stagnation and bacteria and minerals and salt to collaborate here and making it unlivable, unsustainable for life because there's no outlet. It says that there'll be such a great earthquake that the Dead Sea will open up and have an outlet all the way down to the Gulf and therefore become live. And there'll be fishermen all along its banks. So anyway, right up above here, before it enters into the Dead Sea, we find Jericho right here. And so this is considered the Valley of Jericho. And this is where they were at. And they crossed over. As soon as they crossed over, right there was Jericho. That's the very first place that they went to when they crossed over was Jericho. Okay. Here you can see East Manasseh and Manasseh down here. This kind of changes a little bit over time. And then Gad and Reuben, all of them settled on the east side of the Jordan River. All righty. So just above the Dead Sea is where they crossed over. So Jericho is in what tribal territory? Sandra?
Is that Benjamin?
Yeah, it's in Benjamin.
Between Benjamin and God. So is that the same river where Yehukanan the immerser was immersed into?
Yeah, he was around the Jordan, so he must have been in this vicinity, I would say, somewhere within that circle there, the circle right here. So I would say he was probably right in here somewhere because, Jerusalem's over here. So he must have been over here. It said he was in the desert. Now, Jericho, once it was destroyed, was it ever rebuilt? Did the Israelites rebuild it?
Somebody rebuilt it under the curse that Yahusha put on their son and grandson for rebuilding it.
It was a curse to rebuild it.
And somebody did rebuild it too. I can't remember what scripture that's in. It was a curse on the son and the grandson, whoever rebuilt it.
Anybody? Was Jericho ever rebuilt? Yes, it was. Okay. So who rebuilt it? Let me get rid of this. Hang on. Everybody done with that map? All right, I'm going to take it off then. All right. So who rebuilt Jericho? During the 9th century BC,
It
It
was
was-
in First Malachi 16:34.
The curse.
Hiel, the Bethelite, rebuilt Jericho during the reign of King Ahab.
There you go. During Rahab. Who was he?
Israel's husband.
Yeah, he was evil. He was a
Son of, what was his dad's name? Omri.
All right. So after destroying Jericho in chapter 6, we'll see there's a curse for anyone who rebuilds it. And it was, in fact, rebuilt by a Bethite who ignored the warning because of King Ahab's reign. All right. So that's in 1 Kings 16:34, if you want to mark that.
Yep, lost his firstborn was Abiram when laying the foundation, and his youngest son, Segub, sitting at the gate.
Okay, so after the curse of this man rebuilding it, did it remain or was it destroyed? Jericho. I wasn't really going to get into this till chapter 6, but since we're talking about it. Anybody? Did it stay rebuilt? Yeah, it did. So despite being cursed, the city continued to exist throughout the scripture narrative. How do we know that?
Doesn't it exist today?
Does it?
Yeah. And you're hooking on the immersion who's over there doing his little thing in the same thing.
Okay, so remember when Yahusha met Zacharias? Remember that? That was in the city of Jericho. He was passing through,
Okay.
and this Zacharias was a tax collector.
Zacharias. Yeah. He was a little man of small stature.
He was short in stature. He's a little dude, probably 5 foot tall.
Climbed up into the tree to see you.
Climbed up that sycamore tree. And Yahusha spotted him and told him to come down, and he went and visited his home. So that location was Jericho. The reference would be Luke 19, 1 through 10. So despite the curse, Jericho remained rebuilt. All right. Any other thoughts, comments, or questions?
Yes, we were talking about types and foreshadows and things like that, and I was thinking, Yahusha is a type of Yahusha, the Mashiach, and he being the high priest, when he comes back and he parts the Shamayim or the waters, and he's going to take us from immortality or mortality to immortality. And it's when I just thought about when he touches his foot to the Mount of Olives, it's like he's separating all that and he's bringing us over and passing us over into his millennial reign. And
hallelujah. I felt that, sister. I felt it. I felt it. I felt it. Hallelujah.
Yeah, great, but I could just
hallelujah
there. I could
That's
just
great.
Yeah.
That's Yahusha.
Okay, here's the chapter we've all been waiting for, chapter 4. Who wants to read it? Or is there any other thoughts, comments, or questions on chapter 3? Okay, who wants to read chapter 4? This is the big one. Sandra, go ahead.
I don't know if I should read the big one, but I want to read Yahusha, Joshua chapter 4, starting at verse 1. And it came to be when the entire nation had completely passed over the Jordan that Yahuwah spoke to Yahusha, saying, take for yourselves 12 men from the people, 1 man from every tribe, and command them, saying, take for yourselves 12 stones from here, out of the midst of the Jordan, from the place where the priest's feet stood firm. And you shall bring them with you, and leave them in the camp in which you spend the Lila.
Okay, hold on. Okay, so here we are. Now, are the Israelites in the promised land yet? Yes, they finally are in the promised land. They have crossed over. They are now full-fledged Hebrew. So they are now in the land promised to Abraham. Did you notice what I said? I said they are now in the land promised to Abraham. So what's the difference between the slither and the entire promised land? Why do people call Israel the promised land, that little sliver? Why is it? And they don't call the entire region mapped off by Yahuwah the promised land. Do you see why? I just told you why. Phyllis, go ahead.
Because they never went in and inhabited.
No, Abraham was there. They were all there before they went to Egypt. Remember? They were dwelling in Canaan before they went to Egypt. So now they're going back into Canaan. Remember? They were in Canaan, and then the drought came, the famine came, and all that stuff happened with Joseph. And then they ended up going over into Egypt and settling in the Wadi of Egypt, in the most fertile land of Egypt, because of the contribution that Joseph made to the Pharaoh, to Mitzrayim. And they got trapped and became slaves. And the next Pharaoh didn't recognize the contributions of Joseph. And so they were enslaved for 400 years. Now they left, wandered around the wilderness for 40 years exactly, crossed back over into Canaan. They finally went home. So the land promised to Abraham is where they're going to take back. And this is what they're calling the promised land, because it was promised to Abraham. Yahuwah is the one that drew the map and said, I'm giving you the entire territory from the Nile to the Euphrates, to Lebanon, all the way down, and to all of the coast of the Mediterranean will be your land. But the Canaan was promised to Abraham. And so that's why it's called the promised land. We all get that now? But really, in reality, that Canaan is just 10% of the promised land. The other 90% is outside of Canaan. Any thoughts, comments, or questions on that? All right. Let's continue on then.
Verse 4. Yahusha called the 12 men whom he had appointed from the children of Israel, one man from every tribe. And Yahusha said to them, pass over before the ark of Yahuwah, your Elohim, into the midst of Jordan, and each one of you take up a stone on his shoulder, according to the number of the tribes of the children of Israel, so that this shall be a sign in your midst when your children ask in time to come, saying, what do these stones mean to you? Then you shall answer them, that the Mayim of Jordan were cut off before the ark of the covenant of Yahuwah, when it passed over the Jordan. The Mayim of the Jordan were cut off, and these stones shall be for a remembrance to the children of Israel forever. And the children of Israel did so as Yahusha commanded, and took up 12 stones from the midst of the Jordan, as Yahuwah had spoken to Yahusha, according to the number of the tribes of the children of Israel, and took them over with them to their camp and laid them down there. Yahusha also set up 12 stones in the midst of the Jordan, in the place where the feet of the priests who bore the ark of the covenant stood, and they are there to this yom. And the priests who bore the ark stood in the midst of the Jordan until every matter was finished that Yahuwah had commanded Yahusha to speak to the people, according to all that Musha had commanded Yahusha. And the people hastened and passed over. And it came to be, when all the people had completely passed over, that the ark of Yahuwah and the priests passed over in the presence of the people. The sons of Reuben, the sons of God, and half the tribe of Manasseh passed over, armed before the children of Israel, as Musha had spoken to them. About 40,000 armed ones of the army passed over before Yahuwah for battle to the desert plains of Jericho. And on that yom, Yahuwah made Yahusha great before the eyes of all Israel, and they feared him as they had feared Musha all the yomim of his life. And Yahuwah spoke to Yahusha, saying, command the priests who bear the ark of the witness, and let them come up from the Jordan. And Yahusha commanded the priests, saying, come up from the Jordan. And it came to be, when the priests who bore the ark of the covenant of Yahuwah had come from the midst of the Jordan, and the soles of the priests' feet touched the dry land, that the Mayim of the Jordan returned to their place and flowed over all its banks as before. And the people came up from the Jordan on the 10th yom of the first moon, and they camped in Gilgal in the east border of Jericho. And those stones which they took out of the Jordan, Yahusha set up in Gilgal. And he said to the children of Israel, saying, when your children ask their fathers in time to come, saying, what are these stones? Then you shall let your children know, saying, Yeshua passed over the Jordan on dry land. For Yahuwah our Elohim dried up the Mayim of Jordan before you until you had passed over, as Yahuwah your Elohim, did to the sea of reeds, which he dried up before us until we had passed over. And so all the peoples of the earth shall know the hand of Yahuwah, that it is strong, so that you shall fear Yahuwah and your Elohim forever. Amen. Hallelujah.
All right. Thanks, Sandra. Phyllis, go ahead.
I am bubbling over to say this. The relationship between Musha and Yahusha goes even further. It's almost like Yahuwah trying or showing the people that Yahusha is his son and he is in his father is him. Yahusha had everything Musha had in him and was to be treated like Yahusha, just as we're to treat Yahusha as the Father.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Yeah, there was a fear of him. They feared Moses and they feared Joshua, same as they fear Yahuwah. And so, yeah, I mean,
Woo, hallelujah. That's Yahusha.
All esteem to Yahusha.
Yes, ma'am. That was hallelujah. He used you.
When I'm weak, he's stronger.
yeah, it's an amazing blend here of humanity and spirituality. Yahusha, the Ruach, and humanity. An amazing blend, man. I mean, it's mind blowing, really. But they are now in the promised land here. How many memorials are there? How many memorials were set up? Maybe I should ask how many memorial stones were there?
Is it 12?
They set 12 stones up in two different places. One where the priests were standing and they crossed over in front of, and another set of 12 in the camp.
Correct. So there's two memorials and 12 stones each, right? What was the name of the camp? Where was the camp at? Phyllis?
In Gilgal on the east border of Jericho.
Right. In Gilgal. Okay. All right. So where did you find that, Phyllis? What was what verse?
Verse 20.
Okay. So verse 20.
Well, no, up above. I'm sorry, 19.
Okay. So the camp was in Gilgad. And in 20, it says that those 12 stones which they took out of the Jordan, Yahusha set up in Gilgad. Gilgad is on the east border of Jericho. And so it would be between the Jordan River and the city of Jericho is where Gilgal would be. Okay? Everybody see that? Okay, so what's the significance then? And why? Why did Yahuwah make them do that, to put up those two memorials of 12 stones each? Why do you tell them to do it? Okay, so verse 9 says, Yahusha also set up 12 stones in the midst of the garden, in the place where the feet of the priests who bore the Ark of the Covenant stood, and they are there to this day. Does that mean it can be seen? I mean, the midst of the garden, is that on land, or is that in the middle of the river? Didn't the priests, did they stop in the middle of the river and stand there and hold the covenant?
It was in the middle of the river.
Okay, so it says it's there to this day. Does that mean it can be seen, or is it just under the water? What's going on there? Phyllis?
To this day means the day that this was written, correct?
There you go. It was written on to this day would be the day that this was written during this time line. All right, when it's not necessarily talking about today in our time life, is it? No. So here it's in the middle of the Jordan River. Okay, the other one was at the camp near Gilgal, where they were camped east of Jericho. All right. So what's the significance or the purpose of this? Why did you make them do that? Sandra?
Was it proof that he did something, that Yahuwah did it? On verse 24, he says, so that all the people of the rest shall know the hand of Yahuwah that is strong, so that they shall fear Yahuwah, your Elohim, forever. It's proof of his power and demonstration of his power and might.
Anybody else? Sandra?
I was kind of wondering, was it also part of his signs and wonders too? An example of his signs and wonders.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was to remind the children of Israel of what his signs and wonders. Yeah. Well, he says in 21, and he said to the children of Israel, saying, when your children ask their fathers in time to come, saying, what are these stones? Then you shall let your children know, saying, Israel passed over this Jordan on dry land. For Yahuwah your Elohim dried up the mayam of the Jordan before you until you had passed over, as Yahuwah your Elohim did to the sea of reeds, which he dried up before us until we have passed over. So all the people of the Yeret shall know the hand of Yahuwah, that it is strong, so that you shall fear Yahuwah your Elohim forever. So it's a way to answer the future generations' questions about the rocks, and when they ask about it, then they can tell them about what Yahuwah did there by drying up the river, holding it up, and letting them cross at that point. That's why it's a memorial. But notice it says, your Elohim did to the Sea of Reeds, proving that this is a foreshadow of the Red Sea crossing. Everybody see that? There is no discovery or architectural design or status or revealing or finding that's significant, proving that these original stones are still there. This has not been discovered. They can know about where it is. It's pretty clear about where they crossed and where they put the memorials up, but they have not found them. Found the altars, the post signs, or whatever you want to call them. There's piles of rocks around there, but there's no proof. They're just laying around like in a pile or something, but there's no proof of it. Let me see. I mean, it would be a stretch. There's a place till they take people and show them a picture like that, but there's really no proof that that's what that is. I'm looking at it right now, and it just looks like just a pile of rocks to me. There's nothing that you can point at and say, "Oh yeah, that's it." You know what I mean? So go ahead, Phyllis.
Wouldn't there be a guidepost near there, a stone with the commandments written on it for the gatepost, for the gate stone?
I don't think so. I mean, it doesn't say they did that. There is something about that later on, maybe up in chapter 6 or 7 or something. We'll come back to that. You might have a point there. I'm not sure. I remember reading something about that, but I don't think it was this. I think that it's totally different. Yeah, that's right. Because he did do that, but he did that on the mountain. No, he didn't do it down here. So no, it would be no, not that I know of. We'll get into that here momentarily. Go ahead, Sandra.
So I was noticing that it said the people came up from the Jordan on the 10th yom of the first moon or month. That's the day that the Passover lamb was
chosen,
picked out.
Yeah,
in the original Passover.
I was just going to get into that. I haven't talked about that yet, but that's okay. We can go ahead and do it. And so the crossing here, it says, occurred in 19 on the 10th day of Abib of the first moon, which would be month. That's where we get the word month from. So the 10th day of the first moon would be Abib or Nisan. And they camped in Gilgal on the east border of Jericho. Okay. And so this would be just before Passover, wouldn't it? And so, like Sandra just told us, would be the day that they would choose the perfect lamb for the Passover. And what else is this significant of, this date? This would put them exactly 40 years, crossing over exactly 40 years after leaving Egypt. Okay. So the 12 rocks allowed the parents to explain Yahuwah's power to their children. And this happened on the 10th day of Abib, just before the Passover, exactly 40 years after leaving Egypt. What else did these stones mark? Sandra?
Is it Yahuwah establishing them into their inheritance?
Yes.
Beginning.
So yeah, the stones marked a permanent transition from wilderness to the promised land.
Transition.
So a permanent transition from the wilderness to the promised land. In other words, they stopped being vagabonds or wanderers with no home to going into a place where they would be able to settle, eat of the fruit of the land, and build homes, and it would become their nation, their residence. All right. Any other thoughts, comments, or questions? And Joshua 4. Who wants to read 5? Anybody want to read chapter 5?
I'll read it.
I will, I guess.
Don't everybody jump at once.
Yahusha, chapter 5. And it came to be when all the sovereigns of the Amorites who were beyond the Jordan westward, and all the sovereigns of the Canaanites who were by the sea, heard that Yahuwah had dried up the waters of the Jordan from before the children of Yashrael, until we had passed over, that their hearts melted. There was no spirit in them any longer, because the children of Yashrael at that time, Yahuwah said to Yahusha, make knives of flint for yourselves, and circumcise the sons of Yashrael again the second time. So Yahusha made knives of flint for himself, and circumcised the sons of Yashrael at the hill of foreskins. And this is why Yahusha circumcised them. All the people who came out of Nazarene, who were males of the men of battle, had died in the wilderness on the way, after they had come out of Nazarene. For all the people who came out of for all the people who came out had been circumcised, but all the people who were born in the wilderness on the way as they came out of Nazarene had not been circumcised. For the children of Yashrael walked 40 years in the wilderness, till all the nations, the men of battle who came out of Nazarene, were consumed, because they did not obey the voice of Yahuwah, to whom Yahuwah swore not to show them the land which Yahuwah had sworn to their fathers, that he would give us a land flowing with milk and honey. And Yahusha circumcised their sons, whom he raised up in their place, for they were uncircumcised, because they had not been circumcised on the way. And it came to be, when they had completed circumcising all the nation, that they stayed in their places in the camp till they were healed. And Yahuwah said to Yahusha, Today I've rolled away the reproach of Nazarene from you. So the name of that place is called Gilgal to this day. And the children of Yashrael camped in Gilgal and performed the Pesach on the 14th day of the month at evening on the desert plains of Jericho. And they ate of the stored grain of the land on the morrow after the Pesach, unleavened bread and roasted grain on this same day. And the manna ceased on the day after they had eaten the stored grain of the land. And the children of Yashrael no longer had manna, but they ate the food of the land of Canaan. That year, and it came to be when Yahusha was by Jericho, that he lifted up his eyes and looked and saw a man standing opposite him with his sword drawn in his hand. And Yahusha went to him and said to him, Are you for us or for our adversaries? And he said, No, for I have now come as captain of the hosts of Yahuwah. And Yahusha fell on his face to the earth and did obeisance and said to him, "What is Adoni saying to his servant?" And the captain of the host of Yahuwah said to Yahusha, "Take your sandal off your feet, for this place where you stand is Kadash." And Yahusha did so.
Okay. So here in this chapter is really loaded, really. It speaks of this vital, crucial spiritual transition for the children of Israel, where they moved from the wilderness, wandering to entering the promised land permanently. And so the key events here in this chapter include the circumcision of the new generation. They weren't circumcised in the wilderness. He waited for them to cross over before they were circumcised, if you noticed, meaning that they were not in the covenant until they entered into the land promised to Abraham, and then they were circumcised, and the covenant was renewed. You see that? This affirmed the covenant continued through this new generation. They also celebrate Passover, the first Passover after entering over, crossing over, becoming Hebrew, and then the ending of the manna. So the ceasing of the manna. And then at the end here, we see this theophany, or they call it Christophany, some of them do, being that he sees the commander of Yahuwah's army, and showing that this battle is belongs to Yahuwah, and they will be victorious through Yahuwah and not their own strength. Okay, so a lot in this chapter. It's loaded. So the renewal of the covenant, when Yahuwah instructs Joshua to circumcise this new generation that was born in the wilderness, signifies what? What does that signify? Sandra.
Is it possible that it's signifying about the renewal covenant that's going to take place through Yahusha being born again?
Yeah, we can take it there, yeah. But more specifically in chapter 5.
Literally?
So they're in this really vulnerable state. The entire nation of males have been circumcised. Believe me, they're not up walking around after this was done. They're laying there and being very still in pain, aren't they? It's not. This isn't something minor.
So there was some adult male. So there was some adult male circumcision going on there.
Yeah, and so in the completion circumcision here in 8 of the nation, that they stayed in their places in the camp till they were healed. So they were unable to move around. It was very painful. So they were in a very highly vulnerable state. So they had to trust Yahuwah to protect them while they laid around here in pain until they were totally healed. So verse 9, okay, Yahuwah said to Yahusha, "Today I have rolled away the reproach of Mitzrayim from you." So the name of this place is called Gilgal to this day. So that's pretty much a dead giveaway on what Gilgal means in Hebrew. It means rolling away. Okay. And so the covenant renewal here is a reaffirming the loyalty to Yahuwah. Okay. And it signifies a fresh start, a new beginning, a reconnection between Yahuwah and his chosen people, Yahuwah's promise and his chosen people. Right? So then it gets into talking about spiritual preparation in this chapter, or Passover. So before the fighting begins, what happens? What is Yahuwah required them to do? And why are they doing it? What are they doing, and why are they doing it? So obviously it's spiritual preparation, right? It's the Passover. So before going into battle, Israel must prioritize spiritual obedience. So their priority must be spiritual obedience, not killing someone. Okay. And they do this by celebrating Passover at Gilgal. And what else does it do? It marks what? What mark is put on them by doing this? Same thing as when you keep the Sabbath. What is it? Phyllis?
It's the covenant sign.
Right. So it identifies them as Yahuwah's chosen people. They belong to Yahuwah. Okay. All right. So then we do it goes into the transition here of substance. What's that all about? And why?
Say that again. I wasn't clear what you were saying.
So it begins to speak of the transition of substance here. And in other words, the miracle of the manna ceases. It stops falling, right? And the Israelites have to eat the produce found in Canaan. So what does this signify? What's the signification of this transition of substance? Go ahead, Chance.
That they passed over and their training is complete. They are to walk on their own feet now and provide for themselves and maintain their Hebrew state of, they're taught. They're Hebrews now, Abri. They need to walk it. They have to walk it out now.
Right. So this ends their dependence on Yahuwah as far as substance goes, and signifies the end of their wilderness life, right? And in the start of inheriting the lands fruitfulness, its bounty promised to Abraham. Because now they're in the promised land, right? So bounty and fruitfulness. Remember, the land flowing with milk and honey, prosperity and health was promised. And so they begin to live this out, this promise out. Thoughts, comments, or questions? Chance?
I do have somewhat of a question. It's kind of interesting. So the children born in Natsarim versus the children born in the wilderness, do you think the children in the wilderness are more Baruch to look for Yahuwah because they're born in a time of training, whereas being in Natsarim would be completely born in the flesh? You think there's anything there?
There's some type of blessing, because remember when Yahuwah told the elders, he said, all of you going to die in the wilderness, and he says, but the children who you said are going to die aren't going to die. They're going to cross over and they're going to live. Remember? So it's like he gave them what they were asking for.
Wilderness children.
So the wilderness children who the Israelites accused Yahuwah of bringing out into the wilderness to die, he said, they ain't going to die. They're going to live. What are you talking about?
So like, what keeps coming to me is they're not completely born into the desire of flesh, but they have that spiritual baraka in them too.
Mm-hmm.
Like a barak to go to Yahuwah. You know what I mean? Like I'm kind of think that's kind of what keeps coming to me, but I'm not sure, but I feel like that there's something there.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, they weren't part of the covenant until they crossed over and became circumcised. That's why they had to be circumcised, because they were born in the wilderness. So it's almost, to me, almost like a gap between the covenant and the renewed covenant type deal, between the old priesthood and the new priesthood is what it seems to me to be. But what do I know? Go ahead, Sandra.
I kind of am also seeing the seed of the promise versus the seed of the flesh coming forth into the inheritance.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I agree with that one.
All esteem to Yahusha.
And then after it says they no longer had manna, but they ate the food of the land of Canaan that year. It starts speaking of Yahusha, and it came to be that Yahusha was by Jericho. He lifted up his eyes and looked and saw a man standing opposite of him with a sword drawn in his hand. What's this? What is this about? So he receives a command, doesn't he? So who is this person, and what is this all about? Sandra?
Yahuwah's presence in their midst and how they're supposed to worship him. Recognize that they're now in his presence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does seem to emphasize that this battle that's getting ready to take place is Yahuwah's war. It's not based on human effort or conquest, but Yahuwah is the one that's going to clean this land up, type thing. What's the word Scripture calls this theophany, if you will? Yahuwah, Phyllis?
Oh, the captain of the armies of Yahuwah.
Right. So
Yahuwah Sabaoth?
There it is. Yahuwah Shabbat.
Okay.
Okay. And so here he's the commander. He's the one that's going to lead them into battle. Matter of fact, the battle is his. And so Yahusha falls on his face. Notice that he falls on his face. He didn't know if he was for them or against them. And he said, "No, for I have now come as captain of the host of Yahuwah." And Yahusha falls on his face to the earth and did obedience and said to him, "What is my master saying to his servant?" Wanting to receive a command, asking for a divine command here. And the captain of the armies of Yahuwah said to Yahusha, "Take your sandals off your feet, for the place where you stand is set apart ground." And Yahusha did so. So what does that command mean? And what is it? Who's this commander, captain of the armies? Exactly. And what does that command he gave Joshua mean? Take your sandal off your foot, for the place where you stand is set apart ground. That doesn't sound like a command for an army, does it? Or is it? Phyllis?
He was in the presence of the commander of hosts, Yahuwah.
Yeah. I mean, pretty much saying, I'm the one that's going to win this battle. I'm fighting this war, and I'm going to win this war. So in other words, the command is, there is no command, because it's not going to happen through human effort. It's going to happen because I'm going to do it. See, this city was considered impenetrable. I mean, it was like a fortress that couldn't be conquered, man. This was a mighty city, and the walls were mighty, almost considered to be unconquerable. And so Yahuwah says, "There ain't no command for you. I'm going to do it myself. This is my battle. I'm going to win it." So in a way, then, this is teaching them what? Why Yahuwah do that? First of all, who's this captain of the armies? How would you describe him? The messenger. Okay. Chance?
Yahusha.
Yeah, he's Yahusha. Okay, and so he would be the pre-incarnate appearance of the Messiah as the commander of the armies.
I find it interesting that he says take your shoes off like he did to Masha as well. That's like that's telling you it's serious business here. But you know, like when Rahab was talking to the messengers that she let in, he said all these people's hearts melted. They have no spirit in them. Yahuwah already took them out. They're already out of the game. Yahuwah already prepared the way. It's already, so Yashrael is learning trustworthiness and belief. He's still teaching them. He's sit back. I got this,
Anybody else? Phyllis?
Chance brought something out about it's another type of relationship between Moshe and Yahusha. Like what Chance said, Moshe had to take his feet off, sandals off his feet, and Yahusha. That's another comparison between the two.
Yeah, sure is. So the consecration, before battle, or the purification before battle was what? Okay, so it was the circumcision. Okay, they had to dedicate themselves to Yahuwah to renew the covenant before fighting Jericho. And so this encounter then with this captain of the armies of Yahuwah, they told him to take his sandal off because he is where he stands on set apart ground, is reminding Joshua to seek out Yahuwah's will, Yahuwah's plan, Yahuwah's directions, his instructions, rather than assuming that Yahuwah is on their side. He needs to ask and confirm it rather before going into battle, just to make sure. Now, this man, it says that he lifted his eyes and looked and saw a man standing opposite him with a sword. Is there anywhere else that says that Yahusha carries a sword in Scripture? Is Yahusha and a sword synonymous with another part of Scripture's chance?
Just two things come to my mind is when that talking donkey with Baal Peor, that messenger stood in the way with the sword, the donkey kept turning away. And another one in I think Revelation where Yahusha returns with the sword of his mouth, the sword of his mouth, the word of Yahuwah.
That's right.
Because he is the word. He carries a two-edged sword in Hebrews chapter 4. Wow. He has a rod of iron.
Didn't Gideon also face a man with a sword when he was praying? No, that wasn't Yahusha. That was a messenger.
Yeah, well, where Chance was talking about is Revelations 2:12. So it says, and to the messenger of the assembly of Pergamum write, he who has the sharp two-edged sword says this: I know your works and where you dwell, where the throne of Satan is. Okay. That throne of Satan was moved to Berlin. It's now in Berlin, Germany. Okay, so here we see Yahusha himself saying, he who has the sharp two-edged sword says this. So, this would be a man with a sword, would be the captain of the armies, Yahuwah Shabbaoth. This must be Yahusha, because Yahuwah cannot be seen. For him to be seen, he has to appear in a theophanies of sorts, and in this case, as a man carrying a sword, which would be in his body of flesh, Yahusha. Okay, so this is definitely the pre-incarnate appearance of Yahusha Mashiach as the commander, as the captain of the host of Yahuwah, of the armies of Yahuwah, captain of the armies of Yahuwah. Okay, the commander. So no doubt this is Yahusha. This isn't some angel or something. Okay.
There was a couple comments in there about how do we know it was pre-incarnate Yahusha? Do we have any other verses? I think I kind of put a little couple in there, but if you have any other, there was a guy asking Mark Dute.
Well, I basically just answered that. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know how else to answer it. I mean, I pretty much just answered it.
yeah. Yahusha is Yahuwah revealed in the flesh. Yahuwah interacts with his creation through the body he created for himself. Yahusha. You know.
Colossians, firstborn of all creation. 1:15, I think.
We're made in the essence of Yahuwah. Okay. If you want to say image, okay. So what would that mean? Made in the image or the essence or of Yahuwah? Well, we have one head. We don't have three. We have one head. We have two arms. We have two legs. And therefore, the man, Yahusha, would be Yahuwah revealed in the flesh, carries the same image as us. He has one head, two arms, and two legs, two eyes, two ears, one nose, one mouth, and he carries a sword. This is no doubt the pre-incarnate of the Messiah. Who else is in charge of the Malachim? Yahuwah incarnate is the only answer, really. No, actually, what you mean we're not invisible since we are created in his image? I don't remember saying that unless you're talking to somebody in the chat room. But no, he came in the likeness of men. Men is not come in his likeness other than his body, Yahusha. And remember, the lamb was sacrificed before the foundation of the earth. Yahuwah created a body for himself. The very first thing created was a body of light so he could be seen. He could transform that body of light into a body of flesh anytime he wanted to. So why did he come through the loins of a woman? As a sign for us that he came. The second coming will also have a sign ushering him in, which will be as lightning flashes from the east to the west. It'll be a mega flash worldwide. More than likely encompass the entire planet. Go ahead, Sandra.
I was wondering if we can add to that Hebrews 1:1-4. I think it's 1-5. It says, Yahuwah having of old spoken in many portions and many ways to the fathers by the prophets, has in these last yomim spoken to us by the Son, whom he has appointed heir of all, through whom also he made the ages, who being the brightness of the esteem and exact representation of his substance, and sustaining all by the word of his power, having made a cleansing of our sins through himself, sat down at the right hand of the greatness on high, having become much better than the messengers, as he has inherited a more excellent name than them, because he said he came in his father's name. In Bereshit 1, he said, in the beginning, Yahuwah created light. Let light come to be. In Yehukanan 1:1, in the beginning was the Word. He nicknamed that light the Word. Enlightened every man that cometh into the world. And who is that? Yahuwah. Obviously. Because otherwise, like you said, Yahuwah is invisible. You can't see him. And that sitting on his right hand means he's in the authority. He put everything in Yahusha's power and authority. It's a scripture that says that somewhere.
So this chapter 5 is a crucial spiritual transition for Israel, from wandering in the wilderness to entering the promised land, their permanent residence. Who wants to read chapter 6? We go into the fall of Jericho. Okay, June.
And Jericho was shut up tight because of the presence of the sons of Yasharel, none going out and none coming in. And Yahuwah said to Yahusha, see, I have given Jericho and its sovereign mighty brave men into your hand. And you shall go around the city, all the men of battle, going around the city once. Do this for 6 yomim. And let 7 priests bear 7 ram's horns before the ark. And on the 7th yom, go around the city 7 times while the priest blow the horns. And it shall be when they make a long blast with the ram's horn, and when you hear the sound of the horn, that all the people shout with a great shout. And the wall of the city shall fall down flat, and the people shall go up every man straight before him. And Yahusha, son of Nun, called the priest and said to them, take up the ark of the covenant, and let 7 priests bear 7 ram's horns before the ark of Yahuwah. And he said to the people, pass over and go around the city, and let him who is armed pass over before the ark of Yahuwah. And it came to be, when Yahusha had spoken to the people, that the 7 priests bearing the 7 ram's horns before Yahuwah passed over and blew the horns. And the ark of the covenant of Yahuwah went after them. And the armed men went before the priest who blew the horns, and the rear guard came after the ark, going on and blowing the horns. But Yahusha had commanded the people, saying, do not shout or cause your voice to be heard, nor let any word come out of your mouth until the yom I say to you, shout, then you shall shout. And the ark of Yahuwah went around the city, going around once. And they came into the camp and stayed in the camp. And Yahusha rose early in the morning, and the priests took up the ark of Yahuwah. And 7 priests bearing 7 ram's horns before the ark of Yahuwah were walking, going on, and they blew the horns. And the armed men went before them. But the rear guard came after the ark of Yahuwah, going on and blowing the horns. And the 2nd yom, they went around the city once and returned to the camp. Thus they did 6 yomim. And it came to be on the 7th yom that they rose early, about the dawning of the yom, and went around the city 7 times in this way. Only on that yom they went around the city 7 times. And it came to be at the 7th time, when the priest blew the horns, that Yahusha said to the people, "Shout, for Yahuwah has given you the city. And the city shall be put under the ban. It and all that is in it belongs to Yahuwah. Only Rahab, the Zonah, is to live, she and all who are with her in the house, because she hid the messengers that we sent. And you by all means guard yourselves from that which is under the ban, lest you come under the ban when you take of that which is under the ban, and make the camp of Yasharel a curse, and shall trouble it. But all the silver and gold and vessels of bronze and iron are set apart to Yahuwah. They go into the treasury of Yahuwah." And the people shouted when the priest blew the horns. And it came to be, when the people heard the sound of the horn, and the people shouted with a great shout, that the wall fell down flat. And the people went up into the city, every man straight before him, and they captured the city. And they put under the ban all that was in the city, both man and asha, young and old, and ox and sheep and donkey, with the edge of the sword. And to the 2 men who had spied out the land, Yahusha said, "Go into the house of the asha, the Zonah, and from there bring out the asha and all that she has, as you swore to her." And the young men, the spies, went in and brought out Rahab, and her father, and her mother, and her brothers, and all that she had. So they brought out all her relatives and set them outside the camp of Yasharel. And they burned the city and all that was in it with fire. Only the silver and gold and the vessels of bronze and of iron they put into the treasury of the house of Yahuwah. However, Yahusha kept alive Rahab and the Zonah and her father's household and all that she had. And she dwelt in the midst of Yasharel to this yom, because she hid the messengers whom Yahusha sent to spy out Jericho. And Yahusha warned them at that time, saying, "Cursed is the man before Yahuwah who rises up and builds this city Jericho. He lays its foundation with his firstborn, and with his youngest he sets up its gates." And Yahuwah was with Yahusha, and a report about him was in all the land.
All right. Thanks, Jim. Okay. So the fall of Jericho here was a big feat at the time, because to conquer this city was considered almost impossible, because the walls were so fortified, and proving that this was an act of Yahuwah, because the walls just fell flat. And he opened the city up to invasion. There was a divine command here in verses 1 through 5, where Yahuwah tells Joshua that Jericho is already defeated. So the plan was to march daily for 6 days with priests carrying the ark and the trumpets. And so there was a 7-day march around Jericho where the Israelites, included the soldiers and the priests blowing trumpets, marched silently. We're not allowed to say even one word around the city once per day for 6 days. What's that mean? What do you think that was? Notice there's a 7-day march here. The first 6 days, they weren't allowed to say one word. And they could only march around the city once per day for 6 days. Why? What's that symbolically speaking of? Phyllis?
Would it be related to the 6,000 years?
Yes, exactly what it is. So then the 7th day is the final day, right? And the fall of Jericho. Verses 15 through 21 talks about the 7th day here. So the army was to march around the city 7 times, not once, but 7 on the 7th day. And on the 7th time around, the priests were to sound a long blast, and the people gave a loud shout. And then the walls of Jericho fell flat. What is that symbolic of? Chance?
What comes to me is the ram's horn and Yahusha coming on the clouds with his messengers coming. Yahusha's return, our king.
Right. So the mountains crumble at the return of the king, right? This is on the 7th millennium, the 7th day he returns. All right. So 6 days were 6,000 years of men ruling over himself in walled cities and so forth and so on. And then the 7th day, it all collapses, gets destroyed, and conquered by the coming king. Right? Which would be the 7th day, would be represent the 7th millennium, the reign of Yahusha. The reign of men is over. So 22 through 25 gives us a description of the destruction and the spoil. And so the city is devoted to this destruction, and that everything would be destroyed, except for the woman, Rahab, and her family. They're spared. And notice that the silver and the gold belong to Yahuwah and to be put in the treasury, not to be the silver, gold, bronze, and iron are Yahuwah's, and to go into the treasury of Yahuwah. And so they weren't allowed to take the spoil, and there had to be total destruction. Everybody see that? That's going to be important coming up in this next chapter. And then finally, there's a curse put on Jericho. Joshua puts a curse on Jericho here. On anyone who attempts to rebuild the city of Jericho, saying it will cost them their firstborn son and their youngest son. So how would we conclude this chapter or summarize this chapter, the fall of Jericho? How would we describe that? Anybody? So the chapter is very powerful. There's powerful stuff here. And it speaks of belief, trusting, obedience to Yahuwah, and showing that the victory is achieved through Yahuwah rather than traditional human military power. So I guess we are to see if Yahuwah is for us or against us before we act in battle. That would include spiritual battles as well, wouldn't it? Thoughts, comments, or questions on chapter 6? Chance, go ahead.
Something else I was thinking about here is in Revelations, you'll notice the 7 trumpets, and then you'll see about the 7 priests hold the 7 trumpets as well. And I wonder if, if they have any connection.
Yeah, in timeline it does, yeah. So in other words, the 7th trumpet would be the reign of Yahuwah, and the 7th day here is also the reign of Yahuwah. So yeah, it would millennium reign. So in that aspect, timeline wise, yes. Any other thoughts, comments, or questions? Okay. Who wants to read 8? I think we're going to wrap it up with 8. Joe,
We're on chapter 7, Mark.
7? Go ahead.
Yes. But the children of Israel committed a trespass regarding that which is under the ban. For Achan, son of Carmi, son of Sadai, son of Zerach, of the tribe of Yehuda, took of that which is under the ban. And the displeasure of Yahuwah burned against the children of Israel. Now Yahuwah sent men from Jericho to Ai, which is beside Beth Anu, on the east side of Bethel, and spoke to them, saying, Go up and spy out the land. And the men went up and spied out Ai. And they returned to Yahusha and said to him, Let not all the people go up, but let about 2,000 or 3,000 men go up and smite Ai. Do not make all the people toil up there, for the people of Ai are few. And about 3,000 men went up there from the people, but they fled before the men of Ai. And the men of Ai smote about 36 men, for they pursued them from before the gate as far as Shebarim, and smote them on the descent. So the hearts of the people melted and became like water. And Yahusha tore his garments and fell to the arets on his face before the ark of Yahuwah until evening, both he and the elders of Israel. And they put dust on their heads. And Yahusha said, O Master Yahuwah, why have you brought this people over the Jordan at all, to give us into the hands of the Amorites, to destroy us? If only we had been content to stay beyond the Jordan. O Yahuwah, what do I say when Israel turns its back before its enemies, and the Canaanites and all the inhabitants of the land here, and shall surround us and cut off your name from the arets? What then do you do for your great name? And Yahuwah said to Yahusha, Rise up. Why are you lying on your face? Israel has sinned, and they have also transgressed my covenant which I commanded them. And they have even taken some of that which is under the ban, and have both wooden I'm sorry, and have both stolen and deceived, and also put it among their own goods. And the sons of Israel shall not be able to stand before their enemies. They are going to turn their backs before their enemies, for they have become accursed. I am not with you any more, unless you destroy that which is under the ban from your midst. Rise up, set the people apart, and you shall say, set yourselves apart for tomorrow, because thus said Yahuwah Elohim for Israel. That which is under the ban is in your midst, O Israel. Israel. You are not able to stand before your enemies until you put away that which is under the ban out of your midst. And you shall be brought near in the morning, according to your tribes. And it shall be, the tribe which Yahuwah takes comes according to clans. And the clan which Yahuwah takes comes by households. And the household which Yahuwah takes comes by men. And it shall be that he who is taken with that which is under the ban is burned with fire. He and all that he has, because he has transgressed the covenant of Yahuwah, and because he has committed wickedness in Israel. So Yahusha arose early in the morning and brought Israel by their tribes, and the tribe of Yehudah was taken. And he brought the clan of Yehudah, and he took the clan of the Zarachites, and he brought the clan of the Zarachites by men, and Zabah was taken. And he brought his household by men, and Achan, the son of Carmi, son of Zabad, son of Zerach, of the tribe of Yehudah, was taken. Then Yahusha said to Achan, my son, now give esteem to Yahuwah Elohim of Israel, and make confession to him. And please declare to me what you have done. Do not hide it from me. So Achan answered Yahusha and said, truly, I have sinned against Yahusha, Elohim of Israel. And this is what I did. When I saw among the spoil a lovely garment from Shinar, and 200 shekels of silver, and a wedge of gold weighing 50 shekels, I coveted them and took them. And see, they are hidden in the ground in the midst of my tent, with the silver under it. And Yahuwah sent messengers, and they ran to the tent. And see, it was hidden in his tent, with the silver under it. And they took them from the midst of the tent, brought them to Yahusha and to all the children of Israel, and laid them out before Yahuwah. Then Yahusha and all Israel with him took Achan, son of Zerach, and the silver, and the garment, and the wedge of gold, and his sons, and his daughters, and his oxen, and his donkeys, and his sheep, and his tent, and all that he had, and they brought them to the valley of Achor. And Yahusha said, why have you troubled us? And Yahuwah does trouble you today. Then all Israel stoned him with stones, and they burned them with fire after they had stoned them with stones. And they raised over him a great heap of stones, which remains to this yom. Then Yahuwah turned from the fierceness of his displeasure. Therefore, the name of that place has been called the Valley of Achor to this yom.
All right. Thanks, Joe. Okay. So what is the moral of this story? So they were told to totally destroy everything, and the spoils belonged to Yahuwah, put in his treasury. But this man regarded that, and he stole, didn't he, from Yahuwah, basically. Kind of reminds me of the man and the woman, right? That sold their house and held back some money, lied about it, and then they were both killed by Yahuwah. When Peter was taking their money. What's the moral of this story? What do you think? What does this teach? Yeah, go ahead, Sandra.
So I saw a couple of things. It went along with the obedience being better than sacrifice. So it's better to be obedient, because when you break the covenant, you become a whore. When you be disobedience. And then it kind of went along with last night's study about we that are teaching, and we're to be examples. And so they were supposed to not do that. They didn't obey his voice. And when they disobeyed their voice, they forsook their deliverance. They caused their own selves to fall.
Yeah.
That greed and idolatry is granted says the son of a gun, aren't they?
Yeah. Go ahead, Joe.
Do you think the 36 men would have died if they hadn't have done that? So would they really be the cause of their death?
Yeah.
It's,
I do. Actually, yeah. Israel was defeated by this very small town of Ai. And
A little leaven, dozen leaven in the whole lump.
were they overtaken by this little small town? Well, because Yahuwah withdrew his protection. Yahuwah withdrew his protection from them and was not with them, was not fighting for them, was not supporting them because of what they did, because of the sin of this man. So this caused all the people to lose their courage, didn't it? Become weak and have a loss of courage. So what do you think this chapter emphasizes, or what does it mean for us? What is it telling us? And this is the
obedience and live.
Yeah. But it also tells us that we're responsible for our brother's sin. I've talked about this before, and I know this is a very hard concept to follow. But really, we're all of one blood. We all bleed red blood. We're all the human race, okay? And when one sins, we're all responsible. If you don't think so, just look up Adam. Because of Adam's sin, we all sin. We're all guilty. Because of the one man, we all die. But because of one man, Mashiach, we all can live as well. So this is emphasizing that the action of one person impacts the entire community of Israel and can bring corporate guilt and defeat to the entire nation. One person is all it takes. So we're all responsible for each other. We are all committed to righteousness, because if any of us fail, we fail the entire body. And the entire body suffers because of the one sin of one person. That's what this tells us. Thoughts, comments, or questions? Go ahead, Chance.
Yeah, as you were talking about that, it's, you know, like if you cut your finger, does not the whole body feel the pain? You know, and how Yahuwah made the man confess, and then Yashrael had to bring them outside the camp and put a rock to his head. That's called accountability. You know what I mean? Like, big time, and then have to burn your brother or your sister with fire, that's also accountability. And also what points out to me is the hidden covetedness, and how covetedness can turn into theft. So holding yourself accountable for the commands which Yahuwah has given us. You know how I coveted the gold, then he stole the gold. How covetousness is that hidden command, and it turned into a theft, and then it turned into hiding and deceit and treachery. And then finally, not even Yashrael knew about the coveting. It was him. And then Yahuwah exposed that matter and made Yashrael accountable for that. So, like that one cut affected the whole body. It hurt everybody, because now you had to go put a stone to your brother's head. Who wants to do that? I don't. So we got to be accountable for that, because I sure don't want to put a stone to anybody's head. I sure the heck don't want to burn nobody, So that's a very powerful chapter. Coveting, theft, greed of gain, treachery, lying,
Coveting.
Yeah.
So his family, all his belongings were stoned and burned in the valley of Achor, okay, in which is then renamed the Valley of Trouble. And this was the only way to purify or to purge the sin from Israel. They had to totally eliminate it. It had to be burned, stoned and burned, eliminated, as though there was no trace of him. He did not even exist, because him, his entire family, all his belongings were stoned and burnt to a crisp, eliminating his history, stopping his lineage. He was cut off from Israel. What does this remind you of? What's this message behind that? What's the symbolic meaning of that? Sandra?
Does it have relationship to do with the wheat and the tares, Yahuwah cutting them off from the righteous?
Sure.
Separating them?
Yeah, Judgment Day. The tares will be bundled up and thrown in the fire by the reapers. Destroyed, purging the land of sin. So the land is purged or purified with fire prior to the return of Yahusha. It must be purified, or sin must be eradicated from the land, from the world, before the return of the King. Why? In order to purge the sin from the land. There will be a restoration at the return of Yahusha. And the purification comes through by fire. And so that would be the foreshadowing of this as well. All right, so any other thoughts, comments, or questions on chapter 7? Is there restoration available? I mean, can we be restored? Can things be returned back to normal now after this purification here? Well, we find that answer in chapter 8. So who wants to wrap this study up today with chapter 8? Sandra, go ahead.
Yahusha, Joshua chapter 8, starting verse 1. And Yahuwah said to Yahusha, do not be afraid nor be discouraged. Take all the soldiers with you and arise and go up to Ai. See, I have given into your hand the sovereign of Ai and his people and his city and his land. So you shall do to Ai and its sovereign as you did to Jericho and its sovereign. Only its spoil and its livestock you take as plunder for yourselves. Set yourselves in ambush for the city behind it. And Yahusha and all the soldiers rose up to go to Ai. And Yahusha chose 30,000 mighty brave men and sent them away by Lila and commanded them, saying, see, you are going to lie in ambush against the city, behind the city. Do not go very far from the city, but all of you shall be prepared, while I and all the people who are with me approach the city. And it shall be, when they come out against us as formerly, that you shall flee, we shall flee before them, and they shall come out after us until we have drawn them from the city, as though saying, they are fleeing before us as formerly, and we shall flee before them. Then you shall rise from the ambush and seize the city, and Yahuwah, your Elohim, shall give it into your hand. And it shall be, when you capture the city, that you burn the city with fire. Do according to the word of Yahuwah. I have commanded you. And Yahusha sent them out, and they went to lie in ambush and stayed between Beth-ar and Ai on the west side of Ai. But Yahusha stayed that Lila in the midst of the people. And Yahusha rose up early in the morning and inspected the people, and went up, and the elders of Yisrael before the people to Ai. And all the soldiers who were with him went up and drew near, and came before the city, camped on the north side of Ai, with the valley between them and Ai. And he took about 5,000 men, set them in ambush between Beth-ar and Ai on the west side of the city. So they stationed the people, all the army that was on the north of the city, and its rear guard on the west of the city. And Yahusha went that Lila into the midst of the valley. And it came to be, when the sovereign of Ai saw it, that the men of the city hastened and rose up early and went out against Yisrael to battle, he and all his people, at an appointed place before the desert plain. But he did not know that there was an ambush against him behind the city. And Yahusha and all Yisrael let themselves be beaten before them, and fled by the way of the wilderness. And all the people who were in Ai were called together to pursue them. And they pursued Yahusha and were drawn away from the city. So there was not a man left in Ai or Beth-ar who did not go out after Yisrael. And they left the city open and pursued Yisrael. And Yahuwah said to Yahusha, stretch out the spear that is in your hand toward Ai, for I give it into your hand. And Yahusha stretched out the spear that was in his hand toward the city, and the ambush rose up quickly from their place, and they ran at the stretching out of his hand, and entered the city and took it, and hastened to burn the city with fire. And the men of Ai looked behind them and saw the smoke of the city rising to the Shamim, and there was no power in them to flee this way or that way, for the people who had fled to the wilderness turned back on the pursuers. For when Yahusha and all Yeshua saw that the ambush had captured the city and that the smoke of the city went up, they turned back and smote the men of Ai. And others also came out of the city against them. So they were in the midst of Yisrael, some on this side, some on that side. And they smote them until none were left, and none had escaped. But the sovereign of Ai they caught alive, brought him to Yahusha. And it came to be, when Yisrael ended slaying all the inhabitants of Ai in the field, in the wilderness, where they pursued them, and when they had fallen by the edge of the sword until they were consumed, that all the Israelites returned to Ai and smote it with the edge of the sword. And it came to be that all who fell that young, both men and women, were 12,000, all men of Ai. And Yahusha did not draw back his hand, with which he stretched out his spear until he had put all the inhabitants of Ai under the ban. Only the livestock and the spoil of that city Yahusha took as a booty for themselves, according to the word of Yahuwah, which he had commanded Yahusha. And Yahusha burned Ai, made it a heap forever, a ruin to the young, and he hanged the sovereign of Ai on a tree until evening. And at sunset, Yahusha commanded that he should take his corpse down from the tree and throw it at the entrance of the gate of the city, and raise over it a great heap of stones to this young. And Yahusha built an altar to Yahuwah, Elohim of Yisrael, in Mount Ayabal, as Musha had, the servant of Yahuwah, had commanded the children of Israel, as it is written in the book of the Torah of Musha, an altar of unhewn stones over which no man has yielded iron. And they offered on it burnt offerings to Yahuwah and slaughtered peace offerings. And there, in the presence of the children of Israel, he wrote on the stones a copy of the Torah of Musha, which he had written. And all Yisrael, the sojourner as well as the native, with their elders, officers, and judges, stood on either side of the ark before the priest, the Levim, who bore the ark of the covenant of Yahuwah. Half of them were on the front Mount Gerizim, and half of them in front of Mount, as Musha, the servant of Yahuwah, had commanded before, that they should bless the people of Yisrael. And after it, he read all the words of the Torah, the blessings and the cursings, according to all that is written in the book of the Torah. There was not a word of all that Musha had commanded which Yahusha did not read before all the assembly of Yisrael, with the women and the little children and the sojourners who accompanied them.
All right. Thanks, Sandra. Okay. So we see here that Israel's victory over this Ai city came after they burnt the guy that disobeyed. And so the little town that defeated them was conquered. And so restoration came to the Israelites because they got rid of the sin out of their nation. And so this was an ambush that was commanded by Yahuwah, and redeeming their previous defeat. And so the enemy thought, boy, this is going to be an easy battle because of what happened the first time around. But they didn't know that the first time around, Yahuwah wasn't with them, but this time he was, and they didn't know that. And so the ambush worked perfectly. So Joshua uses 3,000 men as a trap, and he burnt the city and killed the inhabitants, which all the men were added up to about 12,000 people. And afterwards, he builds an altar on Mount Ebal and sacrificed a peace offering to Yahuwah. And then he reads the entire Torah to the people, men, women, and children. Didn't leave out one word that Moses had wrote in the Torah. He read it all. And what did this do? Why did he do? Yeah, go ahead.
Renewed the covenant.
He renewed the covenant.
Sister Sandra, I'm sorry, Mark. Joe's version was not updated, and Sister Sandra's doesn't appear being in verse 33. Yeah, it's supposed to be half of them in front of Mount Gerizim and half of them in front of Mount Ebal. So Eybal. I don't think that was in your Sandra.
Right. Yeah.
I kind of paused there too because I kind of remember those.
There.
Thank you.
All righty.
Notice Yahuwah's compassion. He allows them to keep the livestock in the spoil and keep the booty for themselves. Where the first time that they were sent into battle, they weren't allowed to do it, but they sinned, and so he kind of like gave them a way out. Said, okay, let's not let this repeat. Go ahead and keep the livestock and the spoils of the city for yourself. So he kind of like, reassures that they're not going to do that sin again. All right. So unlike the Battle of Jericho, where they weren't allowed to keep anything, now they were. Okay. Go ahead, Sandra.
So I was kind of wondering about that. Why did he, on this time, he told them they could keep it, and then in Jericho, he told them that they couldn't. I was thinking it was because Jericho was more wicked than IE.
I think it was because he didn't want them to sin again.
Okay.
Maybe he knew the temptation was too great, and so he allowed them to take the booty for himself.
Or was it just a test?
I don't know. I mean, he did get most of it, which taking out Jericho was put in the treasury. Just the little bit that the one guy stole from Yahuwah was not.
He didn't follow directions.
But it was recovered. You know what I mean? So he got it all. So maybe he just didn't want this one. He said, well, I took it the last time. I'll let you guys take this time. And if you notice, this wasn't really an act of divine war, where Yahuwah was involved like he was in Jericho. This time he let the soldiers go in there and do it. And so maybe he thought they deserved the booty since they were the ones that did the battle, where in Jericho, he actually did the valley. I mean, he made it the invincible fortress vincible and approachable, So basically, he was the one that conquered Jericho. So he deserved the booty, where here the soldiers did. So maybe he thought they deserved the booty. So we can keep going on and on about that, but it was something to that effect, I would say. Go ahead, Chan.
That makes sense what you're saying.
Yeah, go ahead, Chance.
I might be overthinking this a little bit, but up here in 18, what I find interesting is Yahusha lifts a spear, right? And I'm thinking of Yahushalem when Yahusha went into the city of Yahushalem and was delivered up. And what was plunged or impaled in the side of Yahusha was a spear. And blood and water came out, and he was hung on a tree over here, just like the king of Ai. And then his corpse was thrown. And then what happens is the covenant was like renewed. So I'm wondering if this is like a foreshadow. I might be overthinking on a pretty high level here, but like Yahusha was told to lift a spear, which could be like Yahushalem. And then Yahusha went in there, and then Yahusha became the curse and was hung on a tree, and then they took his corpse down. And then on the next chapter over here, Yahusha built an altar, renewing the covenant.
Yeah. It seems to be, yeah.
The spear is what made it go for me, because of all weapons, a spear, which happened to be what Yahusha was impaled with. Instead of breaking his bones, they put a spear into his side, and blood and water came. And he was also hung on a tree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's all there, so that does seem to imply that into that direction for sure. So the chapter itself it marks a spiritual and a military restoration for Israel, following the sin of the one person, that Achan, in chapter 7. So this lets us know that there is restoration possible, or a recovery of status, following a sin or disobedience. I think
so
that's
it's their second chance, huh?
What's that?
It's their second chance that you talked about last night.
Yeah, notice on this second chance that they obeyed Yahuwah, did exactly what he said to do.
I think that was good what you brought out, brother. What I brought out to you, brother Chance. I get that.
Sister Sandra, and the one before it was talking about the 7 trumpets, the 7 years, and then now this one seems to be like Yahusha renewing the covenant. This is when like Yahusha comes back, and now he's renewing the covenant in his blood, the blood, the curse. He was hung on a tree. The spear was lifted toward Yahushalem. Yahusha was impaled with that spear, and the blood and the water, he became that curse. And that's what this is all like foreshadowed. This is what was just coming to me. I thought I was overthinking for a while here, but the Ruah does seem to be over me on this one.
Is there any other thoughts, comments, or questions on this chapter 8? Any thoughts, comments, or questions on today's study, chapter 1 through 8? Oh, go ahead, Phyllis.
This may not be relevant, but Do you suppose that when they started around Jericho for 6 days, do you suppose they started on the first day of the week so that the seventh day was a Sabbath?
Possibly. Could be. Yeah, I don't think it tells us.
Otherwise, the other 6 days, they would be treating the Sabbath as normal. They would be doing the same thing that they did every day. So it just seems to me that on the seventh day they didn't have to blow the trumpets. All they had to do was shout.
It really doesn't tell us what day one was, but it would stand to reason that it was the beginning of the week, and so the seventh day would have fell on the Shabbat now that week. Being that it was the seventh day, and the seventh day represents the millennium reign, there's a good chance of it. That could be exactly what happened. Because even if it didn't, they still marched around at once and remained silent as they did all the other days of the week. So there was no change. But there became a great change in behavior on the seventh day. And they actually marched around it 7 times. Don't forget, this was Yahuwah, the master of the Shabbat. He can do whatever he wants. Go ahead, Chance.
I just got something else here. Here in chapter 8, verse 29, and he hung the sovereign on the tree until evening and sunset. Yahusha commanded that they take the corpse down from the tree and throw it at the entrance of the gate of the city and rise over it, and a great heap of stones to this day. So that's the dwelling place was destroyed. Yahusha is the dwelling place. That's what that resembles there. The city was, it's like a foreshadow of Yahusha, the dwelling place being knocked over. And remember when Yahusha says, not one stone shall be left on another. That's what it's resembling right there. That's the 30. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I'm saying that where he was taken down off of the stake before evening, because they had to, because anyone hung on a tree was a curse, and so they had to. If they didn't remove him, then a curse would fall on the entire land of Israel. So the body had to be taken down before sun went down. And that's the same thing that happened to Yahusha when he was staked, And I see that connection. But as far as the stones go there, I'm not quite picking up on that. But definitely see the connection about taking him down off the tree before the sun goes down. Obviously, that was the same thing that was required of Yahusha, right? They had to take his body down. And the next day would have been the first day of unleavened bread, as far as Yahusha goes. Which would have been a double whammy. Talking about double jeopardy, there it is. So Yeah, that's a good question, Phyllis. But since there was a count of 7 days, I almost have to lean toward it. They began on the first day of the week. It seems reasonable to me. Any other thoughts, comments, or questions?
Yeah. Oh, Phyllis, when they blew the horn, the wall laid flat. Rest. Boof. You know.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what Yahusha is going to do to this world. It's just going to be gone.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Well,
Yeah.
Shabbat Shalom, brothers and sisters. Love and peace to you all. Beloved family.
Good seeing you, brother.
Anybody else? Thoughts, comments, questions? Anything at all about today's study? Any thoughts, comments, questions about last night's study? Any thoughts, comments, or questions? Phyllis? How about Sandra? How about Chance? How about to Jim? How about to Joe? All right, then. Silence falls on my ears. So, Joe, you want to take us out of here, Joe?
Yes, sir. Yahuwah bless you and guard you. Yahuwah make his face shine upon you and show favor to you. Yahuwah lift up his face upon you and give you peace. Thus they shall put my name on the children of Israel, and I myself shall bless them.
Baruch haba b'shem Yahuwah.
Thank you.
Baruch haba b'shem Yahuwah.
Bob, Hashem,
Good
Yahuwah.
love, everybody.
love you all.
Love you too. Thank you, Brother Mark,
You betcha. I'll steam
for
to
both
you.
Thank you.
studies.
Oh, chance. I just want to tell the kids.
We love you guys.
Love you
Take care.
too.
All righty. Get us X'd off.